Chapter 518, Blood Kylan Leather Armor. Chapter 518, Blood Kylan Leather Armor. Jian Wushuang wandered around the third floor. Many treasures were present, but Jian Wushuang realized that nearly half of them were used to strengthen the body. Jian Wushuang even saw Purple Heaven Thunderbolt and Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt. Two valuable body-enhancing thunderbolts. Many of these treasures were new and unknown to Jian Wushuang. Luckily there was a brief introduction for each item on the shelf. Suddenly he was attracted by one. Blood Kylan Leather Armor. Jian Wushuang was reading the description on the shelf. Blood Kylan Leather Armor, refined from hides of Blood Kylan Demonic Beast of rank 8 and Corundum, has an amazing defense which reduces impact forces. Its price is 8 million raw gems. Jian Wushuang was interested. He had seen defensive armors, but none of them were convenient to wear. Besides, this had an amazing defense. Hides of Blood Kylan Demonic Beast at rank 8 and Corundum. Qing Huo was shocked when he read that. Rank 8 was equal to 8th Cloud Realm. Rank 8 monsters were peak monsters and only rank 9 monsters or Monster Kings rarer. Blood Kylan Demonic Beast was a terrifying species among rank 8 monsters. They were good at defense. Their hard hides were so tough that only divine emperors could destroy them. And Corundum was the hardest or Qing Huo knew. An armor made of hides of Blood Kylan Demonic Beast of rank 8 and Corundum, how could it not be strong in defense? My strong body plus the Blood Kylan leather armor would surely improve my defense capability by a lot. Jian Wushuang squinted and thought. The Blood Kylan leather armor was useful to him in strengthening his life-saving skill. 8 million raw gems, Jian Wushuang murmured. Just like in the Divine Land, people on the monster continent traded with raw gems. But an ordinary first-grade divine general on the monster continent could only have 2 million raw gems, far less than what a marquis in the Divine Land had. In the Divine Land, there were only a few marquis experts. Each one was a top expert with a huge territory, surely they had more gems. Even the weakest marquis in the Divine Land had more than 10 million raw gems. Jian Wushuang killed Marquis Nanyu and took his interspatial ring. So he was able to afford this. Fellow Wushuang, are you interested in the Blood Kylan leather armor? Qing Huo looked towards him. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. Keep its name in mind and pay for it at the counter downstairs. Qing Huo said. They looked around some more, then went downstairs after not finding anything else they wanted. At the counter of the hall on the first floor of Heaven Wing Pavilion. I want Blood Kylan leather armor, Jian Wushuang said. Wait a moment. A purple-haired elder behind the counter nodded. Soon he brought a blood-colored but thin armor to Jian Wushuang. Blood Kylan leather armor, 8 million raw gems. The purple-haired elder said. I don't have that many raw gems, may I pay for it with other treasures? Asked Jian Wushuang. Okay. The purple-haired elder nodded. Heaven Wing Pavilion purchases all treasures at 90% of their selling price. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Not caring too much, he was going to take out some to buy the Blood Kylan leather armor. Right at the moment. Wait. A voice echoed. Jian Wushuang turned and saw a red-haired man bearing a saber on his back walking towards him. It's him. Jian Wushuang recognized that it was Jin Ling, the other second-grade divine general from this assessment. Jin Ling stepped forward and said to the purple-haired elder at the counter, I'll take it. Then he took out an interspatial ring. Jian Wushuang's face fell. 8 million raw gems, only a few of the second-grade divine generals on the monster continent could afford this. Jin Ling, why? Jian Wushuang asked. Just to make friends. Jin Ling said. Oh. Jian Wushuang didn't believe this. Was he really so generous as to give him a Blood Kylan leather armor worth 8 million raw gems as a friendship gift? After paying, Jin Ling passed it to Jian Wushuang. Thanks, Jian Wushuang thanked him and took it. Qing Huo, let's go, Jian Wushuang said. Then they walked out of the Heaven Wing Pavilion. Wait, Jin Ling shouted. Jian Wushuang stopped and looked back to Jin Ling. Jin Ling, anything else? Jin Ling's mouth curled up. Why did he give it to him if he had no request? There is one thing. Brother Wushuang, I know Emperor Fengshao gave you a jade slip. Jin Ling said with a smile and called him brother. Yes? Jian Wushuang nodded. The thing is, the jade slip Emperor Fengshao gave you is important to me. Therefore, I hope you can sell it to me. I promise to give you a good price. Jin Ling said earnestly. Buy the jade slip from me? Jian Wushuang looked at Jin Ling with an interesting smile. Qinghua pointed at Jin Ling and said coldly, we just walked out of the Heaven Wing Pavilion. This man wanted a treasure belonging to my friend and is forcing my friend to sell it to him. We refused, so he blocked our way. Oh. The guards looked towards Jin Ling. People around were all watching Jin Ling and whispering. Such bad behavior. Hee, the Heaven Wing City is one of the 8 cities, no one is allowed to act like that. What treasure is this? Even causing a divine general to act like that? Jin Ling, while being stared at, became sullen and his eyes were cold as ice. Looking at Jian Wushuang, he said, Jian Wushuang, there is one thing you should know. My name is Jin Ling. My father is Emperor Golden Snake. Hearing that, Jian Wushuang did nothing, but Qinghua suddenly narrowed his eyes. A noise arose from the crowd. Apparently they all knew Emperor Golden Snake. The faces of those guards also changed. Jian Wushuang, you should know what I mean. Jin Ling sneered. The people around looked queer. Threats. An unscrupulous but real threat. Many looked at Jian Wushuang with pity in their eyes. Emperor Golden Snake was one of the 108 divine emperors. How could any human without a special background dare to irritate him? Compromise with him. Sell it to him. Maybe you will suffer a loss, but it's better than offending Emperor Golden Snake. He is unlucky to have troubled Emperor Golden Snake's son. I heard that Emperor Golden Snake always defends his son. People around were discussing and many advised Jian Wushuang to compromise by selling the jade slip to Jin Ling. Fellow Wushuang, Qinghua frowned and looked at Jian Wushuang, but he didn't say any more. Jian Wushuang stood in the center of the crowd with hands behind his back. Jin Ling haughtily stared at Jian Wushuang. All of them were waiting for Jian Wushuang's answer. Suddenly Jian Wushuang raised his head and asked with confusion, I'm sorry, who is Emperor Golden Snake? I don't know him. Chapter 520, Earth Core Palace Token. Chapter 520, Earth Core Palace Token. Shock. The people on the street were stupefied and stared at Jian Wushuang. They had tried to predict Jian Wushuang's reaction and could understand both his decision and arguments. Because these two reactions were basic human instincts. However, they didn't expect that Jian Wushuang would say things like that. Who was Emperor Golden Snake? Never heard of him. Emperor Golden Snake, one of the 108 divine emperors, was very famous in the human race. It was unbelievable that Jian Wushuang had never heard of him. His reaction completely offended Emperor Golden Snake. But in fact, Jian Wushuang had indeed not heard of Emperor Golden Snake. He wasn't from the monster continent and had arrived here only a few days ago. It was normal that he did not know of Emperor Golden Snake. Good, great. Jin Ling was apoplectic with fury. He grinned at Jian Wushuang, stared at him and said, Jian Wushuang, I will remember you. The world is small and I will definitely meet you one day. He turned away and then left with a snort. After witnessing this, the bystanders stared at Jian Wushuang for a while and then left. Goodness, he said he had never heard of Emperor Golden Snake. This divine general really has guts. Yes, he does. However, he has really upset Emperor Golden Snake. I heard that Emperor Golden Snake is vengeful. I'm afraid this divine general is already in trouble. People sighed, even the sergeants in the guard army looked at Jian Wushuang with pity. After that, they all left. Well, you are really in trouble now. Qinghua frowned and then looked at Jian Wushuang. My friend, you just arrived in the monster continent, so you haven't heard of the Emperor Golden Snake yet. But I know he is monstrous even among the 108 divine emperors. He is called Emperor Golden Snake because he is as malevolent as a viper. Besides, he is known as the one who always takes revenge for offenses. All the people in the Monster Exterminating League know that whoever offends Emperor Golden Snake would definitely suffer a lot. Really? Jian Wushuang smiled but didn't really care. Qinghua was shocked. He explained it so seriously, but Jian Wushuang didn't seem to care about it. However, he didn't know that Jian Wushuang wasn't worried about Emperor Golden Snake at all. He has been cultivating till now and had already upset numerous people. Thousands of people even wanted to kill him, but he was still alive and well. Like in Divine Land, he became the enemy of the world and his opponents were all at the three ancestors level. He was able to handle them, not to mention Emperor Golden Snake who had just reached the Cloud Realm. My current strength might not be able to confront a divine emperor. However, it is also not easy for him to kill me if I try my best to defend. Jian Wushuang thought secretly. He was confident with his current strength. Okay, forget about Emperor Golden Snake. Let's talk about Emperor Fengxiao. Qinghua looked at him again. Jin Ling just mentioned that you received a jade slip as a gift from the Emperor Fengxiao. What happened to it? I don't really know, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. While I was performing the assessment of divine generals, Emperor Fengxiao was nearby. When I finished, someone gave me a jade slip and said it was a gift from the Emperor Fengxiao who thought I did a good job in the assessment. Oh, really? Qinghua was surprised and said, I would like to have a look at that jade slip. Without hesitating, Jian Wushuang showed him the golden jade slip. This is, Qinghua was shocked when he saw it. Qinghua, do you know this jade slip? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course. This is the Earth Core Palace token. Besides, it is a golden one, which means that whoever has it can enter the 4th level of the Earth Core Palace. The number in this token represents the number of days that the holder can stay in the palace. Qinghua stared at the number which showed 10. 10 days, I can stay in the 4th level of the Earth Core Palace for 10 days. Psst. Qinghua could not help feeling very envious or even a bit jealous. He looked at Jian Wushuang and said, My friend, now I know why Jin Ling has been trying so hard to get this jade slip. Is this jade slip very precious? Jian Wushuang asked. Precious? More than that. Qinghua answered, My friend, I should say this token can easily make numerous divine generals in the Monster Exterminating League go crazy. Not to mention 10 days, even 1 day, many divine generals would fight to the death for it. This jade slip is very precious not only for the divine generals, but also for divine emperors. Like Jin Ling's father, who is called Emperor Golden Snake, although he is one of 108 divine emperors, it would take him about 10 years to get 1 jade slip. It takes about 10 years for Emperor Golden Snake to get 1 jade slip. Jian Wushuang was shocked and asked, Does it mean that this jade slip is also very important for the Emperor Fengxiao? Of course. Qinghua nodded and said, Although the Emperor Fengxiao is a superior emperor and his strength is much stronger than the Emperor Golden Snake's, it's still not that easy for him to get 1 jade slip. To my great surprise, he gave it to you. It is like a meat pie falling from the sky. Jian Wushuang looked solemn. He was also confused why Emperor Fengxiao gave such a precious thing to him. However, Jian Wushuang didn't know that his sword skill had helped Emperor Fengxiao comprehend a sword movement which had bothered him for a long time. So compared to the jade slip, this sword movement was much more important. In Emperor Fengxiao's mind, even if he could get another 3 or 4 jade slips, he might still be unable to comprehend the sword movement. That was why the Emperor Fengshao gave the jade slip to Jian Wushuang as a gift, since he was happy to understand the sword movement. Qinghua, just now you mentioned that the jade slip was related to the Earth Core Palace, so what is that? Jian Wushuang asked. Earth Core Palace is the biggest opportunity in the holy place. No point for you to ask more details because we are going to the holy place now, and later you can figure it out for yourself. You will realize the value of this jade slip, Qinghua answered. Great, then let's go to the holy place. Jian Wushuang smiled with high expectations. Chapter 521, Holy Place and Earth Core Palace. Chapter 521, Holy Place and Earth Core Palace. The Holy Place, the camp of humanity in the monster continent, was located in a vast plain. It was the real center of the Monster Exterminating League, and numerous experts were assembled here. Also, in the Holy Place, there were lots of cultivation resources which were not only helpful for divine generals but also for divine emperors. Among the humans in the monster continent, only those above divine general are qualified to enter the Holy Place. As for the ordinary ones in the Cloud Realm, they don't have the qualification. While wandering in the Holy Place, Qinghua explained this to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang looked around and noticed almost everyone nearby were divine generals. Even the guards who were in charge of guarding the Holy Place were all experts at the divine general level. In front of the Holy Place, there was a towering mountain. On the mountain, there were thousands of palaces and pavilions. There are numerous advanced experts of the Monster Exterminating League living in these palaces. Whoever is able to have a palace in the Holy Place, even at the foot of the mountain, is already a top divine general. Not to mention those who live on the mountainside, it is said that they are divine emperors, Qinghua said. Oh. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. My friend Wushuang, look at that, Qinghua pointed ahead. Jian Wushuang's sight followed Qinghua's finger. Soon he saw a huge pagoda which was made by black sand rising into view. With his unique eyesight, Jian Wushuang was able to observe that the pagoda was formed by sand. It was very weird that the black sand was still slowly flowing. But the pagoda was totally stable. That is the Monster Exterminating Pagoda, the treasure vault of the Monster Exterminating League. Qinghua pointed to the ancient black sand pagoda and said, inside it, you can find cultivation methods, manuals, body reshaping techniques, elixirs, magic weapons, and so on. It has everything you could wish for. Like the last few levels of the bone fusion technique, you also can get it from the Monster Exterminating Pagoda, but of course you need to earn it. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. There was no such thing as a free lunch. It was a rule that you had to earn whatever you wanted. Qinghua, what about the Earth Core Palace? Jian Wushuang asked. Before, Qinghua mentioned that the Earth Core Palace was the biggest opportunity in the Holy Place, so he was very curious and expectant about it. Don't worry, we are almost there, Qinghua said. Soon, Qinghua took Jian Wushuang to the center of the Holy Place. It was an open space and there was a huge altar on it. In the center of the altar, there was a channel which connected underground. Beside this, many guards were standing guard. At the bottom of the altar is the Earth Core Palace, Qinghua said, and then he walked towards the channel with Jian Wushuang. However, as soon as Jian Wushuang stepped on the altar, he noticed the peculiarity of the void. The origin energy here seems to be more powerful than at any other place. Jian Wushuang raised his brows. Have you already noticed? Qinghua looked at Jian Wushuang with a smile and said, it's just outside the Earth Core Palace. When you are inside it, you will realize the value of the Earth Core Palace. With a hint of expectation, Jian Wushuang arrived at the front of the channel to the Earth Core Palace. The guards outside the channel looked at Jian Wushuang and Qinghua, and then they let them enter. Following the channel, Jian Wushuang and Qinghua arrived at the first level of the Earth Core Palace. It was a huge underground palace. Inside, there were many secret chambers where numerous divine generals were cultivating and meditating. When Jian Wushuang got to the first level, he immediately noticed the origin energy becoming much more powerful. Just now, when he was outside the Earth Core Palace and near the altar, he had already noticed that the origin energy was a little bit stronger. But now, when they were on the first level, the origin energy was at least twice as strong as outside. It was certainly better to cultivate and meditate here since it was full of origin energy. Is this the magic of the Earth Core Palace? Jian Wushuang was a bit surprised. At this moment, Qinghua finally started to explain, the Earth Core Palace is the biggest opportunity and treasure of the holy place. Its origin energy is much stronger than outside because the supreme relic of humanity is at the bottom of the Earth Core Palace. Relic? Jian Wushuang was intrigued. The supreme relic of humanity in the monster continent? I also don't know what the relic is, but I know that the main reason that our human group, who has been threatened by the demonic beasts, are able to occupy this area is because of this relic. If we did not have it, we would already be wiped out by the demonic beasts, Qinghua said. Jian Wushuang was shocked. If it was as Qinghua said, then this relic was very important for humanity in the monster continent. Absolutely, it was the root of humanity and a treasure which could decide humanity's survival or extinction. The Earth Core Palace has this magic because of the relic, Qinghua said. There are 5 levels in the Earth Core Palace, the lower the level is, the stronger the origin energy is. We are just on the first level, but the origin energy is already 2 times stronger than outside. If you get into the second level, the origin energy will be 10 times stronger. And so on, the origin energy on the third, fourth level will be even stronger. Knowing this, Jian Wushuang stared open-eyed. The origin energy on the second level was 10 times stronger than the outside? Remember, the stronger the origin energy was, the easier one could meditate on the origin. 10 times stronger, what did this mean? Besides, it was only the second level. No wonder the Earth Core Palace is said to be the biggest opportunity in the holy place. It is much easier and faster to cultivate and meditate on origin here than outside, Jian Wushuang said. Yes, that's true, Qinghua nodded, but not everyone is able to cultivate here. A divine general of the Monster Exterminating League is able to get into and cultivate on the first level. However, talking about the second level, it requires certain qualification. What qualification? Jian Wushuang asked. Kill demonic beasts and obtain demonic beast monster cores. Qinghua solemnly said. Chapter 522, the fourth level. Chapter 522, the fourth level. Humans and demonic beasts are sworn enemies. The reason why we have the Monster Exterminating League is so that we can contend against them. Whoever wants to cultivate on the second level of the Earth Core Palace needs to make contributions. Killing demonic beasts and obtaining monster cores are an essential contribution. Any person who wants to stay on the second level of the Earth Core Palace for 1 day needs to obtain 1 monster core of a rank 6 demonic beast, Qinghua answered. Jian Wushuang's pupil slightly shrank. He could understand the requirements for entering Earth Core Palace based on killing the demonic beasts and obtaining monster cores. However, requiring a monster core of a rank 6 demonic beast to enter and stay on the second level for only 1 day sounded a bit too exaggerated. A rank 6 demonic beast was on par with a 6 Cloud Realm expert, Superior Lord. This meant that for a divine general in the Monster Exterminating League to stay on the second level for 1 day, he needed to kill 1 demonic beast which possessed a 6 Cloud Realms battle strength. Actually, the Earth Core Palace is not the only place that requires monster cores. Several places in the holy place, including the Monster Exterminating Pagoda, also have the same requirement. There are hundreds of treasure in the Monster Exterminating Pagoda that we can't buy with raw gems but only with monster cores from demonic beasts. Qinghua continued. Although the requirement to enter into the second level of the Earth Core Palace is a bit too strict, divine generals in the Monster Exterminating League would still like to cultivate there for a while. As for the third level, its origin energy is much more powerful, so it requires more. Usually, only divine emperors are able to cultivate on the third level, but they also can't stay there for a long time. As for the fourth level, it requires even more than the previous levels. There are 108 divine emperors in the Monster Exterminating League. Every few years, these divine emperors usually cultivate at the fourth level for a couple days. If any of them wants to stay there for 10 days, it will take them a few years or even about 10 years to kill enough demonic beasts. Hearing that, Jian Wushuang felt a bit overwhelmed. Even divine emperors can only cultivate on the fourth level for a couple of days every few years. Then what about the golden jade slip in his hand? My friend Wushuang, the token that the Emperor Fengshao gave to you is permission to enter the fourth level of the Earth Core Palace. It allows you to stay there for 10 days, 10 days. Qinghua looked at Jian Wushuang with an envious sigh. What I can say is you are too lucky. Jian Wushuang couldn't help laughing. Although he knew that the jade slip was very precious, he didn't know how valuable it was. But now, he finally understood. Emperor Fengshao indeed gave me a good gift, Jian Wushuang thought with delight. Soon Qinghua and Jian Wushuang arrived at the entry to the second level. My friend Wushang, I will be waiting for you here. 10 days are not that long, you need to take full advantage of it, Qinghua said. Of course, Jian Wushuang nodded with a smile and then entered into the entryway. The guards who were guarding there stopped him at the beginning, but when Jian Wushuang showed the jade slip to them, the guards looked surprised and allowed him to enter. Obviously, they were all surprised that Jian Wushuang had this jade slip. Followed the path, Jian Wushuang continuously advanced to the bottom of the Earth Core Palace and soon he arrived at the fourth level. As soon as he stepped onto the fourth level, he immediately sensed the powerful origin energy around him. Jian Wushuang had been cultivating till now, but he hadn't sensed such powerful origin energy. So powerful. The origin energy here is at least 100 times stronger than outside, maybe even more than that. Jian Wushuang was deeply shocked. It was a real cultivation sanctuary which was full of powerful origin energy. The fourth level was not as big as the first level, but there were still numerous secret chambers. Jian Wushuang randomly picked one and entered. Hunkering down in the secret chamber, Jian Wushuang closed his eyes and started to meditate. It was much faster and easier for him to comprehend origin inside the chamber than outside. He had been meditating on 999 slaughter techniques of the first level restriction of 6-story pagoda, but until now he could only comprehend about 600, and there were still another 300 slaughter techniques that he couldn't understand. But now, while he was meditating, he soon found out that he was able to overcome the difficulties which had bothered him before. It seemed he could work them out easily and simply. This feeling is really amazing. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes, they sparkled with surprise and joy. In only a couple minutes, he already comprehended 10 techniques of the first level restriction. It would take him a few days or at least 10 days to achieve this if he was outside. I only have 10 days, but it is really a precious chance, so I can't waste a second. He took a deep breath and moved his mind. Soon the slaughter doppelganger popped up beside him. The original body and the slaughter doppelganger were both inside the secret chamber to help him meditate. As time flew by, Jian Wushuang sped up comprehending world origin and slaughter origin. In a flash, 10 days passed. In the secret chamber, Jian Wushuang's original body and his slaughter doppelganger were still sitting with legs crossed. At this moment, there was a new origin mark slowly condensing on his original body's arm. With the addition of the previous origin marks, there were already 8 world origin marks on it. Right, 8 marks. Lately, Jian Wushuang just had condensed the 6th world origin mark in the Wu Yan tribe. However, when he got to the 4th level of the Earth Core Palace, he only spent 10 days condensing the 7th and 8th world origin mark. Moreover, this was only the improvement of the world origin. It was really incredible. On the other side, Jian Wushuang's slaughter doppelganger was also sitting and 8 slaughter origin marks showed on his arm. The slaughter origin condensed the 8th origin mark as well. World origin, slaughter origin, both got 8 marks. Jian Wushuang's eyes shone with delight. Origin mark represented the comprehension of the origin. Since he still didn't break through the cloud realm, the brows of his origin mark metamorphosized the cloud and the power was still limited. But for Jian Wushuang, the usage of these 2 origins would be improved dramatically. His overall strength already had experienced a huge improvement. In the Saint realm, condensing the 8th origin mark is already incredible. Not sure if I will still have the chance to get the 9th mark. Jian Wushuang thought. Chapter 523, 3 Methods. Chapter 523, 3 Methods. The 9th origin mark was a legend not only in the divine land, but also in the monster continent, and even in the whole ancient world. In the ancient world, there were lots of 7 cloud realms and 8 cloud realms, but it was very rare to find a 9 cloud realm. Like the 72 marquis in the divine land, including the 9 sovereigns, the highest level that they could comprehend was the 8 cloud realm of origin. So far, there was not even one 9 cloud realm expert among the humans in the monster continent. Although divine emperors already reached the requirement of the 9 cloud realm and their strength was much stronger than the 8 cloud realm divine generals, they still couldn't enter the realm. Even the temple masters, the peak expert above the cloud realm, could only break through the 8 cloud realm. It seemed the 9 cloud realm was practically extinct in the ancient world. But now, Jian Wushuang already condensed the 8th origin mark of the world origin and slaughter origin. If he tried hard to get the 9th origin mark and break through the cloud realm, then he would be a 9 cloud realm. 9 cloud realm, flying to the 9th heaven, Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. He had been in the saint realm for a long time. Based on his realm, he was already beyond the saint realm. As an ordinary saint realm expert, he should have broken through the cloud realm after condensing 3 origin marks. But because Jian Wushuang cultivated the heavenly creation skill, it made him completely different from an ordinary warrior. That's why although he already had 8 origin marks, he was still in the saint realm. All the movements of the heavenly creation skill were unbelievable and different. As an ordinary warrior, it was a step into the cloud realm after breaking through the saint realm. But for Jian Wushuang, who was above the venerable master, it was flying to the 9th heaven. Flying to the 9th heaven had a significant meaning. Perhaps, I need to condense the 9th origin mark before I can break through. Jian Wushuang thought quietly. But that was only what he thought. He didn't really know the details. As he had stepped on the path of inverse cultivation, the future was already full of unknowns. Unfortunately, I can only stay here for 10 days. If I had more time, maybe I could condense the 9th origin mark. Jian Wushuang thought with regret. 10 days passed, so he had to leave the 4th level. When he arrived at the 1st level, he could sense the difference of the origin energy. Jian Wushuang shook his head. Compared to the 4th level, the 1st level is much weaker. Qinghua had been waiting for him on the 1st level. When he saw Jian Wushuang. My friend Wushuang, how is the 4th level, any achievements? Qinghua asked. A lot, but sadly I only had 10 days, Jian Wushuang answered. 10 days already means a lot, you should be satisfied with it. For me, I could not dream of entering the 4th level. Even if you let me stay on the 3rd level for a couple days, I would already be laughing aloud as if my dreams had come true, Qinghua answered with a bit envy. Ha! Jian Wushuang couldn't help laughing. Indeed, he should be satisfied. After all, it was the 4th level which was not easy even for divine emperors to access. He should thank Emperor Fengshao for giving him a chance to enter it. Oh, Qinghua, before you mentioned that the requirement of going to the 2nd level of the Earth Core Palace or exchanging the treasure in the monster exterminating pagoda was monster cores of demonic beasts. However, where are the monster cores from, or where can we kill demonic beasts? Jian Wushuang asked. Roughly, there are 3 methods to get monster elixirs. Qinghua looked at Jian Wushuang and explained to him carefully. First, you can do simple tasks for the Monster Exterminating League, such as being a guard of the 8 cities in the holy place or sending messages to others. All these tasks give you monster cores as the payment. They are easy and not dangerous, but you won't get much. As for the second method, you can join the military. Pausing a couple seconds, Qinghua continued the conversation. There are 4 military camps in the Monster Exterminating League. These 4 separately guard the north, south, east and west sides of human territory. Apart from the human territory, the rest is occupied by demonic beasts. Those demonic beasts often attack our human territory, so the mission of these 4 military camps are to defend and even wipe out the demonic beasts. The scale of the attacks from the demonic beasts are both big and small. Usually there are some small attacks, but sometimes we face brutal ones. Every time, we humans try our best to fight against them. Many experts have died in this war, but of course they also have greater opportunity to obtain monster cores. So, the second method is full of danger but also easier to get monster cores. While talking to this point, Qinghua paused and looked at Jian Wushuang, and then he continued, "Before, I stayed in a military camp for a while and I only could get enough monster elixirs to exchange the bone fusion technique of the 5th and 6th level, but that's because my strength was weak. However, my friend Wushuang, you are a second-grade divine general. If you could stay in a military camp like me for a few days, you would absolutely get more monster elixirs than me." "So what about the third method?" Jian Wushuang asked. "The third way is to slaughter the demonic beasts in a territory which is already occupied by them," Qinghua answered. "But, the territory is vast and there are thousands of demonic beasts in it. The ordinary divine generals will surely be killed if they get into the monster territory. Only those divine emperors and few divine generals whose strengths are on par with the divine emperors are brave enough to do that." Jian Wushuang nodded slightly in acknowledgement. In the monster continent, 90% of the territory were occupied by demonic beasts. Humanity was limited to only 10%. That meant the monster group was really strong, so the ones who went to the territory was like entering the tiger's cave. That would be super dangerous. If a person whose battle strength was not as strong as the divine emperors went to the demonic beast's territory alone, he would definitely be killed. "I've decided to go to the military camp," Jian Wushuang said. Qinghua smiled slightly. It seemed he already knew it. "If you want to join the military camp, you need to apply first and then the league will arrange for you. Follow me," Qinghua said. Soon, Jian Wushuang and Qinghua left the Earth Core Palace. Qinghua had stayed in a military camp for a while, so he knew how to apply for it. Soon, they both applied to join a military camp. 2 days later, the Monster Exterminating League offered a place for them. Jian Wushuang, the second-grade divine general, will be in the 7th Army of the East Camp and be a leader of a 100-soldier squad. Qinghua, the first-grade divine general, will be in the 7th Army of the East Camp and be a leader of a 10-soldier squad. Chapter 524, East Camp. Chapter 524, East Camp. In the monster continent, there were the north, south, east and west borders in the human group's territory. Each border had 1 military camp, with the camps respectively named the north, south, east and west camps. These 4 camps were like huge stones that shielded the human group from harm. For a long time, numerous demonic beasts had tried to invade the human territory but had been defeated by warriors and experts from the 4 camps. The East Camp was one of the 4 camps. There were thousands of experts in the East Camp. Here, a 6-cloud realm, superior lord, was only an ordinary warrior. A divine general could be a leader of a 10-soldier squad, while only a second-grade divine general was qualified to be in charge of a 100-soldier squad. 10 100-soldier squads formed one army, which was led by an advanced second-grade divine general. Beyond that, there were the generals, divine emperors, and the temple masters who were at the top of the hierarchy. It was said that there were more than 3 temple masters and about 10 generals in the East Camp. Jian Wushuang and Qinghua were both assigned to be in the East Camp and in the same army. As Jian Wushuang was a second-grade divine general, he was designated the leader of a 100-soldier squad. Qinghua was a first-grade divine general, so he led a 10-soldier squad. Qinghua's position was one level lower than Jian Wushuang's. At the present moment, both of them were in one of the camps. Fang Han, commander, I hope I can count on you. A red-haired man with a saber strapped to his back sat on a long narrow table holding a wine bowl. Opposite the red-haired man, a plump middle-aged man smiled and said, Jin Ling brother, you're too humble. I don't think anyone in the East camp would dare to provoke you. After all, your father is the Emperor Golden Snake and is one of the generals in our camp. Don't worry about that. From now on, as long as I get some good news in the 7th Army, I will share with you. Thanks, Fang Han, commander. I would like to propose a toast to you, the red-haired man said with a smile. If Jian Wushuang had been present, he would have immediately recognized Jin Ling, with whom he had previously had conflicts within the Heaven Wing City. After Jin Ling became a divine general, he had applied from the Monster Exterminating League to join the military camp. Since his father was in the East camp, he had been assigned to the same camp, became a leader of one 100-soldier squad in the 7th Army. The plump middle-aged man, Fang Han, was the commander of the 7th Army. Technically, he was Jin Ling's boss. However, since the Emperor Golden Snake was Jin Ling's father, Fang Han was very humble to him. In the camp, Jin Ling and Fang Han were enjoying their conversation while drinking. At this moment, a sergeant walked into the camp and said respectfully, Commander, the leaders of a 100-soldier squad and a 10-soldier squad are here. Who are they? Fang Han asked. The leader of the 10-soldier squad is called Qinghua. He stayed in the East camp before, but was not in our army. As for the leader of the 100-soldier squad, his name is Jian Wushuang. He was only recently designated a 2nd-grade divine general, the sergeant answered. Oh. Fang Han raised his eyebrows. Jian Wushuang. Jin Ling's expression changed abruptly. His face filled with hatred as he mumbled to himself. It's him. What's the matter, Jin Ling brother, do you know him? Fang Han looked at Jin Ling. He's been in my thoughts. It's such a coincidence that he has been assigned to the East camp and also to the same army as me. Jin Ling's expression was glacial as he gave a forced smile. The smile was as sharp as a blade. Jin Ling brother, it seems you have an axe to grind with Jian Wushuang. Fang Han smiled slightly as he looked at the sergeant. You can leave, but tell Jian Wushuang that I am busy now. Ask him to wait for me outside. Yes, the sergeant departed to convey his order. Fang Han and Jin Ling were left alone in the camp again. Fang Han, commander, about Jian Wushuang. I might need your help, Jin Ling said. Jin Ling brother, there's just us here. Please speak plainly. Fang Han squinted at Jin Ling. I would love him to die. Jin Ling answered with a cold voice. Oh. Fang Han raised his eyebrows, hesitated for a moment and said, the sergeants in the human territory are already in danger. Any careless mistake will result in their deaths. It will be easy to get rid of Jian Wushuang. How about this, since he is in my army, I'll assign some dangerous and deadly tasks for him to handle. What do you think? No, Jin Ling shook his head. Dangerous tasks are always accompanied by good rewards. It'd be nice if he is killed while carrying out the task. But if he isn't, he will benefit from the rewards. So, what is your plan? Fang Han frowned and looked at him. Jian Wushuang is here is to kill the demonic beasts and get the monster cores, but I am not going to let it happen. Fang Han, commander, don't we need someone to guard the Sky Solitude Mountains? Jin Ling asked. The Sky Solitude Mountains? Fang Han narrowed his eyes. He knew what Jin Ling meant, so he smiled and said, the Sky Solitude Mountains is behind the East camp. The demonic beasts will need to get past the defense of the East camp before they can reach the Sky Solitude Mountains. Usually, only monster spies are able to get there. Even if the monster spies get there, the Sky Solitude Mountains is vast. Besides, There is only a 100-soldier squad standing guard there, so it is hard to detect any spies. It's also a desolate landscape, so it'd be hard to get any monster cores there. Okay, then let's follow this plan. I would love Jian Wushuang to get not even one monster core while he is in the East Camp. Sure, Jin Ling sneered. Fang Han Commander, thanks for following the plan. I'm leaving now, Jin Ling said. No problem. Your enemy is my enemy, I know how to make him suffer, Fang Han smiled. Jin Ling nodded and then left the camp. Outside the camp, Jian Wushuang and Qing Hua stood in silence as they waited. Fang Han Commander should be talking to someone, so let's wait for a while here. Qing Hua said. Sure, Jian Wushuang nodded patiently. Soon, they saw a figure emerge from the camp. When they saw who that person was, their expressions both changed. Chapter 525, Guarding the Sky Solitude Mountains. Chapter 525, Guarding the Sky Solitude Mountains. Jin Ling. Jian Wushuang and Qing Hua stared at Jin Ling, who had just shown up in front of them. I didn't expect that we would see him here. It seems that he is in the 7th Army as well, and since he is a 2nd-grade Divine General, he should also be a leader of a 100-soldier squad, Qing Hua said quietly. It's really an undesired encounter, Jian Wushuang frowned. Previously, Jin Ling and he had had several conflicts in the Heaven Wing City. Now, they were meeting again in the East Camp. Jin Ling glanced at Jian Wushuang and Qing Hua and snorted, then he left. Soon, another person emerged from the camp. That person was Fang Han. Fang Han Commander, Qing Hua called. Commander, Jian Wushuang repeated. Are you Jian Wushuang? Fang Han looked at him and nodded slightly. From now on, you are the leader of a 100-soldier squad. Since I am your commander, you should obey my orders, do you understand? Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. Good. I have a task here, so I will let the 10th 100-soldier squad handle it. Fang Han said. What is it? Jian Wushuang asked. To guard the Sky Solitude Mountains, Fang Han said. I will dictate the order soon. Today, you can take up the post of the 100-soldier squad and then go to the Sky Solitude Mountains. Without waiting for Jian Wushuang's reaction, Fang Han returned to the camp. Jian Wushuang was not bothered about Fang Han's behavior. However, he noticed that Qing Hua had a strange expression on his face when he looked at him. Qing Hua, what's wrong? Jian Wushuang asked. Wushuang friend, we are so unlucky this time. We only just got here and are assigned to guard the Sky Solitude Mountains, Qing Hua answered. What's wrong with guarding the Sky Solitude Mountains? Jian Wushuang asked. It's your first time in the East Camp, so you're unaware, Qing Hua continued as they walked. The Sky Solitude Mountains is behind the East Camp. It is not at the front line, so there are few chances to fight with demonic beasts. They're unlikely to attack the mountains. The East Camp is at the front. The demonic beasts would need to overcome the defense of the East Camp before they can reach the Sky Solitude Mountains. But that's almost impossible. If it does come to that, it would mean that the entire East Camp has already been destroyed. Oh. Jian Wushuang looked slightly surprised, so, why guard the Sky Solitude Mountains? To handle the monster spies, Qing Hua answered. The East Camp is huge and the East is vast. The demonic beasts sometimes attack the human group there. Typically, the human warriors from the East Camp can stop them, but a few monster spies can remain undetected. Most of the monster spies would be found and killed, but a few of them can still escape and blend in with the human group. That's why there are a few 100-soldier squads guarding the area around the Sky Solitude Mountains. Their responsibility is to wipe out all the monster spies. However, these monster spies are everywhere, so it's not easy to defend against them. As the East Camp needs to focus on the attacks from demonic beasts, not many people can be spared to guard these places. Inevitably, some monster spies can escape from the East Camp and get into the Huaman territory. Only a few of them would be found and killed by us. Oh. Jian Wushuang's expression changed slightly. Like the Sky's Solitude Mountains, it is extremely vast and it stretches for millions of miles, but we are the only 100-soldier squad guarding that area. So what do you think about our chances of meeting the monster spies who pass by the Sky's Solitude Mountains? Qing Hua smiled bitterly. It stretches for millions of miles. Jian Wushuang laughed. It was impossible for one 100-soldier squad to guard thousands of miles of territory without letting a single monster spy sneak out. Does it mean we can't see any demonic beasts or even monster spies when we are in the Sky's Solitude Mountains? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, that's why I just said we were so unlucky. The Sky's Solitude Mountains is a desolate landscape, it is barely possible to get monster cores there, Qinghua answered with a bitter smile, but the good news is there is a rule in the East Camp. All 100 soldier squads take turns to guard the Sky's Solitude Mountain. So we will do it for 1 month. Next month, a new squad will take up guard there. That sounds acceptable, Jian Wushuang nodded. Jian Wushuang's reason for joining the military camp was to kill the demonic beasts and get monster cores. Obviously, he would not want to guard the Sky's Solitude Mountains where the chances of seeing a demonic beast were remote. If he had to stay in the Sky's Solitude Mountains all the time, he would prefer to be a guard in the holy place or in the 8 cities. It would be more comfortable and easier. Soon, Jian Wushuang and Qinghua arrived at the camp of the 10th 100-soldier squad. As soon as they knew their leader had arrived, the 100-soldier squad immediately gathered at the open space. The quality of the East Camp's 100-soldier squads had always been very good. Even ordinary sergeants at the lowest level were at 6 Cloud Realm and were superior lords in the Divine Land. And the leaders of 10 soldier squads were designated first-grade Divine Generals. My name is Jian Wushuang and from now on I'm your leader, Jian Wushuang introduced himself simply. The sergeants adopted an air of humility towards Jian Wushuang as he was a second-grade Divine General. A 100-soldier squad was made up of 10 10-soldier squads. Each 100-soldier squad also had a monster discriminator. The monster discriminator was the only one who could recognize the monster spies. In less than half a day, Jian Wushuang had familiarized himself with the squad leaders in his command. That night, they went to the Sky's Solitude Mountains. When they arrived at the Sky's Solitude Mountains, Jian Wushuang met the leader who was standing guard there. It seems strange that the commander has assigned you to guard the Sky's Solitude Mountains now, because we have been here for less than 10 days, the leader said. Jian Wushuang was a bit surprised but he didn't really care. Anyway, only 1 month, I could stay here for 1 month, Jian Wushuang mumbled to himself. With their caliber, 1 month was not that long. Jian Wushuang and his sergeants were all patient and began the task in the Sky's Solitude Mountains. Chapter 526, Give an inch but take a mile. Chapter 526, Give an inch but take a mile. The Sky's Solitude Mountains stretched for hundreds of thousands of miles. It was almost as huge as the 8-million-mile-long flaming battlefield where Jian Wushuang had been to before. A 100-soldier squad guarding such a vast territory played a negligible role. For the next few days, Jian Wushuang and his squad did not spot any demonic beasts or monster spies during their patrols. Jian Wushuang couldn't do anything about his situation. As he didn't expect to get any monster cores in the Sky's Solitude Mountains, he started to improve his strength. I have already reached the bottleneck of comprehending the world origin and the slaughter origin, so it might be impossible to break through them and condense the 9th origin mark in a short duration of time. However, I could still try to improve my sword principle. Jian Wushuang considered his options. From then on, in addition to patrolling the Sky's Solitude Mountains, Jian Wushuang also spent time cultivating his swordsmanship and sword skills. Like the heart-killing sword technique and the multifold realm, there was still plenty of room for him to improve. It was quiet in the Sky Solitude Mountains, and the experts in Jian Wushuang's squad were also a bit idle. Compared to the 100-soldier squads in the East Camp who were constantly fighting demonic beasts, there was a huge difference. In a flash, 1 month had passed. It is already 1 month, finally we can leave this desolate place. Qinghua and Jian Wushuang were excited. This month had been very boring for Qinghua and the sergeants in the 100-soldier squad. They had been guarding the mountains for a month and finally the month had passed. If everything goes well, there should be another 100-soldier squad coming to take our place soon, Jian Wushuang said. Qinghua stood and waited in silence. Half a day passed and yet there was still no sight of a new 100-soldier squad. Finally, an ordinary sergeant appeared and passed a message to them. The commander said that they had a fight with the demonic beasts a few days ago. Many squads suffered losses, so now we have a lack of manpower. This month, we can't arrange for a new squad to guard the Sky Solitude Mountains. The 10th 100-soldier squad will continue to stand guard here. Without waiting for their reactions, the sergeant turned and left. How could that be? The sergeants from the 10th squad were furious. Not going to replace us? How is that possible? Qinghua frowned and looked angry. This is the East Camp's rule. Every month, a new 100-soldier squad is supposed to stand guard here. Why are they not making the change this time? Manpower shortage? That's nonsense. It would be good for those squads suffering manpower shortages to stay in this desolate place. They wouldn't even need to fight with any demonic beasts. Qinghua growled, I am pretty sure that Fang Han is doing this intentionally to make us suffer. It's also very likely that Jin Ling is involved in this. Otherwise, why did the commander ask us to stay in the Sky Solitude Mountains when we had just arrived at the East Camp? Besides, the previous squad had been here for less than 10 days. Jin Ling? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and said, that's very possible. After a month in the East Camp, he had learnt that Emperor Golden Snake, one of the East Camp's generals, was Jin Ling's father. As a general, he had lots of power. Jin Ling was Emperor Golden Snake's only child, and so was held in esteem by the commanders in the East Camp. Of course everyone would support him. Brother Wushuang, what's your plan? Qinghua looked at Jian Wushuang. During the months spent on the mountains, he had built a good relationship with Jian Wushuang. Before, he had called him friend Wushuang, but now, he called him brother Wushuang. Let's wait for 1 more month, Jian Wushuang answered in a low voice. We still can't be sure that Fang Han is making us suffer, so let's tolerate this for 1 more month. If they still don't follow the rule next month. Jian Wushuang's eyes were flinty. He did not want to cause trouble but was unafraid of doing so. Fang Han was the commander and also his boss. Jian Wushuang could accept it if Fang Han merely wanted to challenge him. However, if the commander was intentionally making things difficult for him, he would not suffer in silence. Fine, then let's wait 1 more month, Qinghua nodded solemnly. Jian Wushuang and Qinghua spent lots of time pacifying the sergeants. Finally, the 10th 100-soldier squad resigned themselves to stay in the Sky Solitude Mountains for 1 more month. In a flash, another month had passed. It was time for the squad rotation. However, no one showed up. At sunset, all the sergeants in the 10th 100-soldier squad were in a dark mood. It's been 2 months and there's still no squad coming to replace us. Not even a messenger showed up. What's wrong with this picture? I would be bored to death if things keep going like this. I would rather be a guard in the 8 cities, or in the holy place, or even be a messenger than stay in this desolate place. It's already 2 months. It's deserted here. I heard that our leader has upset someone in the East Camp, that's why the commander assigned him to stay in the Sky Solitude Mountains. It's obvious that the commander wants him to suffer. Really? Who did he upset? I heard that he is the son of a general in the East Camp. What a bunch of bastards, using their power to exact revenge. All the sergeants were angry. Jian Wushuang had his hands crossed behind his back as he stood on a hill watching the sunset. At least they sent a messenger last month. This month, not even one appeared. Jian Wushuang's face was clouded over. Brother Wushuang. Qinghua approached him and said, "It's already the second month, the sergeants are all frustrated. Several squad leaders and I are trying to pacify them, but it's not really working." "I can understand." Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and said, "Qinghua, please tell the sergeants to stay here for one more night. Tomorrow I will talk to Fang Han." "Are you going there by yourself?" Qinghua looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. "Don't worry, I will be fine," Jian Wushuang said and smiled coldly. "All right, then I will leave." Qinghua left to console the sergeants. Jian Wushuang stood on the hill and murmured, "Fang Han and Jin Ling. I have tolerated you for a month. I made concessions but you took advantage. You really think I am a coward?" Chapter 527, Sheer Shadow. Chapter 527, Sheer Shadow. It was night. There was a nameless hill in the sky's solitude mountains. Under the dim moonlight, Jian Wushuang stood on that hill with a long sword. He was clad in a black robe and his eyes were closed. There was complete silence. A fresh breeze started and blew past Jian Wushuang, causing him to finally open his eyes. As his eyes opened, wow! A sword shadow flitted in the dark sky. This sword shadow was soundless but unique. Extinction. Right, that was the extinction conception. One sword attack would cause the extinction. The sword shadow glided across the void, leaving a long sword river that dissipated slowly. When it was over, the silence persisted but there was a smile on Jian Wushuang's face. "The fourth move of heart-killing sword technique, finally I made it." Jian Wushuang was filled with joy. Sheer Shadow, the fourth move of heart-killing sword technique, was a terrifying killing move. Its power was above enchant, which was the third move. Jian Wushuang had been cultivating this move, especially during these 2 months in the sky's solitude mountains. He was unable to improve his comprehension of the origin, so he had focused on the sword principle. Finally, he had figured out this sword movement. "My strongest offensive power can be improved to the next level since I've understood this move," Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Just then, a whooshing sound was heard. Abruptly, the sound of wind whooshing could be heard issuing not far from the horizon. Although the sound was faint, Jian Wushuang was still able to hear it. "Anyone here?" Jian Wushuang frowned and immediately walked forward. Under the dark cover of night, he could see 10 people, including 7 men and 3 women, rushing forward. All of them looked deadly serious. "Soon, we will be able to leave the sky's solitude mountains and arrive at the human group's territory." An elder with white hair and rosy cheeks led these people. He said in a low voice, "As soon as we leave the sky's solitude mountains, we will immediately be separated. We'll obey the order to mix with the human group. After that, we will try our best to get close to the advanced experts in the human group, so that we can send as many messages as possible to our ethnic group, understand?" The other 9 people nodded solemnly. These people were spies. The monster group had sent them here at great cost. The spies had to blend in with the human group to obtain important information or to assassinate some geniuses in the human group. It had not been easy for them to survive the encounters with the East Camp barriers. Once they made it past the sky's solitude mountains, they could get into the Huaman territory. Then, they wouldn't be easily recognized in the human group. The 10 monster spies were rushing forward. Suddenly, a figure popped up in front of them and blocked their way. The white-haired elder with rosy cheeks frowned and stopped immediately. He squinted at Jian Wushuang who had blocked their way and said, "You're a human expert and even a divine general." Jian Wushuang stared at the 10 people, his guard up. The sky's solitude mountains was behind the East Camp. It was a desolate landscape where even retirement sergeants in the East Camp were unlikely to pass. It was strange to see a 10-person squad with such high caliber here. 2 experts are the 7-cloud realm and the rest are all the 6-cloud realm, but these 2 experts don't have any aura of the Divine General's token. Jian Wushuang's face clouded over. If they didn't have the aura of the Divine General's token, then they were not Divine Generals. The squad was obviously from the East Camp. However, in the East Camp, only a few sergeants were in the 7-cloud realm level but were not Divine Generals. It was very suspicious that such a squad was walking in the Sky Solitude Mountains in the dark. Who are you? As Jian Wushuang spoke, he discreetly crushed the messaging slip and sent a message to Qinghua. He asked Qinghua to bring a monster discriminator immediately. Only the monster discriminator would be able to judge if they were monster spies or not. My Lord Divine General, the elder answered. We are sergeants in the 3rd squad of the East Camp. We have a special mission and we are passing here. Chapter 528, The Harvest. Chapter 528, The Harvest. After Jian Wushuang had comprehended the 6th level of bone fusion technique, his incredible physical power and spiritual power were elevated. He had also obtained the 8 origin mark supplement, so the power of this attack was enormous now. This sword attack was as heavy as a mountain as it slashed towards the elder. The elder's hands were as red as the raging fire as he launched a punch and tried to stop Jian Wushuang's attack. However, when the 2 attacks collided head-on, the elder's body smashed onto the ground like a meteorite. Bang! There was a pit in the ground several foot deep. So powerful. The other 9 monster spies stared at Jian Wushuang in terror. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's eyes were full of killing intent and a vast blood river swept quickly through him. The blood river soon covered the void. Hundreds of immaterial sword essence waves were superimposed in the blood river. Because Jian Wushuang had already comprehended the 1000-fold realm, the power of the sword essence was extremely strong. 1000-fold realm's power was much stronger than 100-fold realms. The monster spies around him were trapped in the blood river. As Jian Wushuang controlled the realm to oppress them, the monster spies sensed a huge force that dramatically limited their movement. Soon, Jian Wushuang's power exploded. Shua! Shua! 2 flashes of sword light erupted. 2 monster spies in the 6-cloud realm level stared blankly as a tiny sword scar appeared on each of their throats, from which blood was pouring out slowly. Once again, Jian Wushuang transformed and easily approached another 3 monster spies. They didn't have a chance to react and were killed immediately. Run! Run, run quickly! The rest of the monster spies were panicking and ran away without any hesitation. However, as they were so close to Jian Wushuang and still trapped in his realm, it was impossible for them to escape. In only a couple minutes, Jian Wushuang killed the 10-person squad including the elder. The squad of 8 6-cloud realms and 2 7-cloud realms did not stand a chance against Jian Wushuang. Based on my strength and the realm, I can easily kill the experts in the Divine General level. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. Because of their strong physical power, 7-cloud realm Divine Generals in the Monster Continent were all close to the 8-cloud realm experts in the Divine Land. Jian Wushuang had been in the Monster Continent for only a short time but had seen a huge improvement in his skills. Now, he could easily kill 7-cloud realm Divine Generals and demonic beasts. In fact, based on his strength, it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill 2nd-grade Divine Generals in the 8-cloud realm. Not long after Jian Wushuang had killed all the spies, Qinghua arrived at the scene with the 100-soldier squad and the monster discriminator. Brother Wushuang, how are you? Qinghua approached Jian Wushuang. I'm fine, Jian Wushuang said as he shook his head. Go check if they are monster spies. Yes. The monster discriminator quickly responded and then started to check. Even though the elder and his team were dead, the monster discriminator would still be able to judge if they were demonic beasts. Soon, he got the result. "Captain, these 10 people are all monster spies," the monster discriminator reported. "Oh." Jian Wushuang slightly smiled, but he was not surprised. In contrast, the sergeants in the 100-soldier squad were shocked and they realized that these people were monster spies. So many monster spies, 10 spies in total. The weakest one is the 6-cloud realm and 2 are in the divine general level. So how many monster cores can be exchanged? One sergeant cried. A monster spy was more valuable than an ordinary demonic beast. If ordinary demonic beasts were killed, only their monster cores could be taken away. However, it was a different story when it came to killing the monster spies. It cost a lot to have monster spies. Monster spies had to be transformed to have the appearance of human beings and then sent to the human territory. Their value would far exceed that of ordinary demonic beasts. Therefore, killing the monster spies would give more benefits than killing the ordinary demonic beasts. At the same level, you could get a rank 6 monster core if you killed a rank 6 demonic beast. But if you killed a rank 6 monster spy, then you could exchange his body for a rank 7 monster core in the East Camp. Jian Wushuang had killed 8 rank 6 monster spies and 2 rank 7 monster spies, so he would be able to get 8 rank 7 monster cores and 2 rank 8 monster cores from the East Camp. It was definitely a harvest for him. The Sky Solitude Mountains is a barren and vast landscape. Usually, we can't meet any monster spies, not to mention a 10 monster spy squad. "Brother Wushuang, I have to say you are so lucky," Qinghua said. Haha, Jian Wushuang couldn't help laughing. He waved his hands and said, "Tidy up these bodies. I will take them to the East Camp to exchange for the monster cores. I also need to talk to Fang Han. After that I will share them with you guys." "Okay." Wu Yuan nodded. In the early morning on the following day, Jian Wushuang took the monster spies to the East Camp. In the East Camp, Jian Wushuang first exchanged the monster spies for monster cores in the camp of the 7th Army. The sergeants there were shocked by Jian Wushuang's haul. Typically, it was very hard to catch one monster spy. However, Jian Wushuang had defeated 10. He really had good luck. After obtaining the monster cores, Jian Wushuang went to Fang Han's camp. He needed an explanation from Fang Han. This was for himself and also for his 100-soldier squad. Chapter 529, An Explanation. Chapter 529, An Explanation. Jian Wushuang arrived at Fang Han's camp. "Please report to the commander that the leader of the 10th 100-soldier squad, Jian Wushuang, wants to see him." Jian Wushuang spoke to a guard outside the camp. "Wait a minute," the guard answered and left to convey the message. Soon, the guard returned from the camp and said, "Commander said he is busy now. He needs you to wait here." Jian Wushuang squinted in consternation, but he was patient and decided to wait. However, Fang Han had still not shown up after an hour. "It's already been an hour." Jian Wushuang raised his head. He had a steely look in his eyes. "Fang Han, I've shown you respect, but you don't care. In this case, don't blame me later." Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and suddenly stepped out. "Fang Han, commander." Jian Wushuang spoke with his great spiritual power. His words exploded over the camp like a thunderclap. It caused a great disruption in the campsite of the 1st Army, where all the sergeants raised their heads in shock. They were confused as to who was shouting so loudly at Fang Han, commander. Inside the camp, Fang Han, a plump middle-aged man, was drinking wine. He didn't look as busy as he had claimed. Jian Wushuang, since you upset Jin Ling, you can't expect to have a nice time here." Fang Han smiled coldly. He did plan to meet Jian Wushuang after a while, but... "Fang Han, commander. A cold yell reverberated through the camp. It felt like thunder with a sound wave attack. Thwack! The flagon in Fang Han's hand shattered and its contents splashed on the floor. Fang Han's face clouded over. Damn! With a great yell, Fang Han stood up and walked outside. Jian Wushuang stood outside the camp, long sword in hand and face devoid of expression. Sergeants from the First Army surrounded him, all staring at him in shock. Jian Wushuang! A furious yell issued from the camp. Soon, Fang Han showed up. His eyes were filled with rage as he looked at Jian Wushuang and said in a cold voice, Jian Wushuang, I told you that I'm busy and asked you to wait for me here. How dare you shout at me? Your wild behavior is not allowed here. Wild? Jian Wushuang frowned, then laughed and said, Fang Han Commander, I think you need to understand the situation now. I'm not here to meet you today. I'm here to demand an explanation. Explanation? All the sergeants were stunned. A leader of a 100-soldier squad had come to demand an explanation from a commander. He is going to. Jian Wushuang, what do you want? Fang Han's expression was glacial. There is a rule in the East Camp that all 100-soldier squads take turns every month to guard the rear of the East Camp. But when I got here, you immediately asked me to go to the Sky Solitude Mountains. My squad has been there for 2 months but no squad has relieved us, and there hasn't even been a messenger to explain why. Fang Han Commander, don't you need to give me an explanation? Jian Wushuang looked at Fang Han coldly and yelled, 3 breaths, within 3 breaths you have to give me a good explanation, otherwise don't complain that I am not nice to you. Having heard Jian Wushuang's words, the sergeants understood the situation. Finally, they knew Jian Wushuang's purpose in meeting Fang Han. Jian Wushuang, didn't I already send a messenger to tell you that the First Army has been fighting with the demonic beasts? We are suffering from a lack of manpower, so I need you guys to keep guard there. Is there a problem? Fang Han answered in a low voice. Manpower shortages? Jian Wushuang laughed and said, it is not a bad excuse to fool little kids, but not me. 2 breaths have passed, you still have 1 more. Jian Wushuang stared at Fang Han. I am the commander of the First Army. Even if I don't have a reason, I can still order you to guard the Sky Solitude Mountains, and you have to do it. You have to obey me. Fang Han snorted. Without responding, Jian Wushuang raised his head. His eyes were filled with fury. 3 breaths already. A powerful aura suddenly erupted from Jian Wushuang's body and then immediately swept away. The sergeants near him could sense this aura and were stunned. They didn't know what Jian Wushuang's plan was. But this soon became clear with Jian Wushuang's next actions. He transformed, leaving behind a residual shadow. At the same time, the powerful aura became a huge hurricane and barreled towards Fang Han. Action! He took actions. A leader of a 100-soldier squad attacked a commander. How dare he? He is crazy. The sergeants around were flabbergasted by the sight. Even Fang Han was taken aback, but soon, he gave an angry laugh. How dare you? Fang Han snorted. He did not show any trace of fear. The commanders of the First Army in the East Camp were all top 2nd-grade divine generals or 8 Cloud Realm peaks, with strength acknowledged by all. Among the human group in the monster continent, only the divine emperors and a few advanced 2nd-grade divine general who were in defiance of the natural order were able to defeat him, but Jian Wushuang. Deep down, Fang Han looked down on him. He was aware that Jian Wushuang had just become a divine general. It was also his first time joining the military camp. That meant he hadn't had any chances to fight demonic beasts previously. A young man who has never met a demonic beast dares to attack me. You are killing yourself. Fang Han's face clouded over as a giant axe appeared in his hand. The void in front of Fang Han split, exposing Jian Wushuang's figure. Jian Wushuang held a triple-kill sword and was filled with killing intent. Silence fell around him. The commander of the East Camp usually has the top second-grade divine general's battle strength. If I want to challenge him, I have to use some skills. Jian Wushuang squinted and stared at Fang Han. He made up his mind. Once he started the action, he would not hold back. He would definitely defeat the opponent and wouldn't give him a chance to fight back. Less than 10 meters away from Fang Han, Jian Wushuang finally struck. Chapter 530, Absolute Advantage. Chapter 530, Absolute Advantage. As Jian Wushuang waved his hand, a vast blood river surged forward, superimposed by the thousandfold realm, and spread out while surrounding and suppressing Fang Han. Then, Jian Wushuang drew his sword and infused it with his powerful physical strength before he silently swung it out. A silent sword shadow flickered with a dazzling light and a level of force which seemed like it could decimate anything in the world. The sword shadow flitted through the open area between them, leaving behind a sword river that persisted for a short period of time. It was the fourth move of the heart-killing sword technique, Sheer Shadow. How dazzling! The sergeants around couldn't help closing their eyes. They had to. The sword move Jian Wushuang used was too bright and dazzling, causing their eyes to feel a burning sting. This sword stroke, Fang Han, who had been underestimating this attack, suddenly became nervous when he saw Jian Wushuang's sword sweeping toward him. A faint sense of crisis arose in his heart. He dared not be careless anymore. He tightly gripped his giant axe and held it high while it simultaneously burst with raging flames. As Fang Han roared, he hacked out as if he was trying to split the world in half. The giant axe sliced through the air with a great power that astonished everyone in the area. Jian Wushuang's silent but extremely bright sword shadow also slashed its way toward it. Bang! The two terrible forces collided like falling stars. A shattering sound reverberated out as the space where the collision happened began to compress. It seemed as if the surrounding area was going to crumble. That boy! Fang Han, who had looked down upon Jian Wushuang before, was deeply shocked now. How can his attack be so powerful? Fang Han stared at the area in front of him as the two forces were still going head-to-head in a fierce confrontation. Nevertheless, it was obvious to him that he was getting tired because the power of his axe shadow had been gradually weakening. In contrast, Jian Wushuang's sword was still bright and dazzling, and it was even growing in strength. Apparently, Jian Wushuang had a huge advantage in this confrontation. How is it possible? He hasn't even fought any demonic beast. How can a young man become so powerful without experiencing all sorts of challenges and danger? Fang Han roared in his heart, but his face was full of shock. Experts usually refine their skills and improve their strength through challenges and dangerous situations. He heard that Jian Wushuang had come from a small tribe and had only just become a divine general recently. That meant that he had not encountered many challenges. He should not have been this strong, however. Fang Han did not know that Jian Wushuang had not been born on the monster continent. It was true that he had never fought with any demonic beasts and had no battle experience on the monster continent. Nevertheless, he had grown up while surviving through cruel battles and slaughter in the divine land. When accepting the divine general assessment, Jian Wushuang had not used his sword's soul power. With only his physical strength, 7 origin marks, and the third move of the heart-killing sword technique, he had managed to pass the 4th round, which was possible only for the strongest of second-grade divine generals. That was to say, Jian Wushuang had been comparable with Fang Han even without the use his sword's soul. In addition, after meditating for 10 days inside the Earth Core Palace and condensing the 8th origin mark, Jian Wushuang had greatly improved his current level of strength. During the 2 months he spent in the Sky Solitude Mountains, his comprehension of sword principle had been enhanced greatly. Not only had he mastered the thousandfold realm, which increased the power of his domain, he had also comprehended Sheer Shadow, the 4th move of the heart-killing sword technique, which caused his strength skyrocket. He was definitely much stronger now than he had been when he participated in the Divine General Assessment. While using his sword soul, he was confident that he could battle with an ordinary Divine Emperor. Feng Han, who was merely a peak second-grade Divine General, imposed no sense of threat on Jian Wushuang. Humph. Jian Wushuang snorted. The bright sword shadow that had forced Feng Han to step backwards began to shine even brighter. I can't hold on any longer, Feng Han cried out in shock. Swoosh! The sword shadow slashed through the air towards Feng Han, with its violent power numbing Feng Han's hands. Whoosh! Feng Han's giant axe had been directly knocked away. Jian Wushuang strode toward Feng Han and then stretched out his hand at lightning speed. Kneel! Along with the yell, he directly used his incredible physical strength to push Feng Han's head down. Feng Han was immediately forced to the ground, then Jian Wushuang strode one step forward and stamped on him heavily. A huge round hole, about a meter deep, appeared on the ground, with stones tumbling towards the bottom of the hole. Boom! Feng Han spurted a mouthful of blood and his face turned dreadfully pale. Jian Wushuang bent down to pick up Feng Han as if lifting a chick. Get lost! He threw Feng Han towards a nearby camp, which immediately broke into pieces. Everything became calm once again. Although so many things took place, everything after Jian Wushuang attacked happened in the blink of an eye. While the sergeants were still dazed and confused, the battle had already been settled. Seeing Feng Han lying there, covered in blood and struggling to get up, the sergeants were astonished. They were absolutely stunned. Stupefied. It was so incredible. When Jian Wushuang first appeared, they had thought that he, as a squad leader, was crazy for daring to challenge a commander. But now, the actual result was beyond everyone's expectations. Right then. What are you doing here? They suddenly heard an imposing voice. All the sergeants, including Jian Wushuang, turned to look at him. It was a thin black-clothed elder who released a powerful Dao aura, revealing his identity as a divine emperor. General. Everyone bowed to him. In the East Camp, all experts at the divine emperor level were generals. General, please help me, Feng Han immediately cried out in grief. The black-clothed elder glanced at Feng Han with a serious look and asked, what happened? General, it was Jian Wushuang. He's a squad leader under my command. He almost killed me just now. He is trying to rebel. Feng Han shouted while pointing at Jian Wushuang. Chapter 531, A Cornered Beast Will Always Bite. Chapter 531, A Cornered Beast Will Always Bite. Rebel? Jian Wushuang sneered, you certainly know how to twist things. Rebel? The black-clothed elder also looked at Jian Wushuang. General, I arrived at the East Camp 2 months ago and was appointed as the leader of the 10th Squad. I was immediately sent to guard the Sky Solitude Mountains and have stayed there since then. Jian Wushuang reported, the East Camp's rule is that all squads will guard the Sky Solitude Mountains in turns. Every month a new squad will take over. Last month, Feng Han sent a message that other squads were understaffed because they had fought with demonic beasts and we had to keep guarding there. However, this month he didn't even give us any notice. That's why I came here to ask for an explanation. Asking for an explanation? That's how you ask? Feng Han stared at Jian Wushuang coldly. Shut up, the black-clothed elder snapped. He looked at Feng Han and said, it's no wonder that he came here to challenge you. They can rarely meet any demonic beasts in the Sky Solitude Mountains, so they have little chance of obtaining monster cores, but they can't just leave. That's why East Camp set the rule of 1-month shifts for every squad. But, you not only forced them to guard it for 2 months, had Jian Wushuang not come here to challenge you, you would have left them there to continue guarding the area, wouldn't you? Well, Feng Han's expression changed slightly, but he dared not refute him. Don't think that I don't understand what's going on in your head. As a commander, who is this unfair to your subordinates? Why would he respect you? Not to mention that he's stronger than you. The black-clothed elder said coldly, well, this is the end of the matter. Arrange another squad to go to the Sky Solitude Mountains immediately. As for your injuries, take them as the punishment for violating the rules in East Camp. After saying that, the black-clothed elder immediately left. How can this be? Fang Han stood there with eyes full of astonishment. The general scolded him without making any mention of Jian Wushuang's fault. Jian Wushuang had fought with his superior but was not punished at all. The elder obviously favored Jian Wushuang. The other sergeants in the surrounding area had also realized it. Jian Wushuang was also quite surprised. Though confused, Jian Wushuang did not spend much time thinking about it. He took a quick glance at Fang Han and considered his next step. Under the gaze of the other sergeants, Jian Wushuang, while still holding his sword, stepped in front of Fang Han. What are you going to do? Fang Han stared at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang looked down at Fang Han, who was lying on the ground, and said, indifferently, Commander Fang Han, it seems that you lost out this time. Fang Han's expression changed slightly. Jian Wushuang bent down and whispered in Fang Han's ear, Fang Han, I know that you were told to do this to spite me. He has a special identity, so you did not dare to displease him. That's normal. However, before you made things difficult for me, you should have weighted your own strength. I respected you as a commander, so I didn't disgrace you in front of others. But you shouldn't go too far. A corned beast will bite. Especially if that beast is stronger than you. Fang Han half lay on the ground with a gloomy expression on his face. He felt ashamed and resentful when he heard Jian Wushuang's words. However, he dared not refute them. This world was ruled by the strong. Jian Wushuang was obviously stronger than he was. So he was unable to refute what Jian Wushuang said. While gritting his teeth, Fang Han said in a low voice, I'll immediately arrange for another squad to take over guarding the Sky Solitude Mountains. It's good you know what you should do. Jian Wushuang stood up and directly returned to the Sky Solitude Mountains. He did not know that the thin black-clothed elder was standing above them at the edge of the campsite, watching as he left. Another man stood next to him. This handsome man with long hair was none other than Emperor Fengxiao. You asked me to go down there while you stayed up here. Fengxiao, what's your relationship with that boy? The black-clothed elder asked. He was actually asked by Emperor Fengxiao to come here and help Jian Wushuang. I've only seen him once previously, but he has great potential. When he had just arrived here from his tribe, he was already equal to a peak second-grade divine general and had an extremely strong body. What's even more important though, is his extraordinary comprehension in sword principle. Emperor Fengxiao explained casually, after being enlightened by his swordsmanship, I easily and quickly mastered a new sword move. What? The black-clothed elder was shocked. Emperor Fengxiao had an extremely deep comprehension in regards to sword principle. In truth, very few people on the monster continent could compare with him in sword principle. Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship was capable of enlightening Emperor Fengxiao. From the looks of it, he has greatly improved since his participation in the Divine General Assessment. I'll naturally favor a young man who has such great potential. What's more, it's Fang Han's fault, Emperor Fengxiao said. The black-clothed elder raised his eyebrows but didn't say anything. Well, no need to continue talking about them. Let's go meet Temple Master Pure Moon. The wedding of the two monster kings is by no means a good thing for us humans, Emperor Fengxiao said seriously. All right, the black-clothed elder nodded solemnly. They immediately left to meet Temple Master Pure Moon, who was the head of the East Camp. In the campsite of the 7th Army, Fang Han was busy dealing with his wounds in a hasty manner before he returned to his tent. He immediately ordered, command the 3rd Squad to take over the Sky Solitude Mountains. Tell Jin Ling, the leader of the 9th Squad, to come see me quickly. Yes, Sir. A sergeant immediately left to deliver his order. Before long, Jin Ling followed a sergeant and came to meet Fang Han. Commander Fang Han, I heard that Jian Wushuang came to see you today. Jin Ling had been on a mission outside before this, so he did not know what happened. He only heard that Jian Wushuang came to meet Fang Han. He thought that Fang Han must have sent Jian Wushuang away, so he was quite pleased. Jian Wushuang, you didn't make me happy, so you won't be happy in the future, Jin Ling thought with pride. However, he frowned the moment he saw Fang Han in the tent. Commander Fang Han, what happened? He noticed that Fang Han was dreadfully pale. Obviously, Fang Han was injured, and seriously injured at that. It's all thanks to you. Fang Han replied coldly. His attitude toward Jin Ling had completely changed. Chapter 532, Demonic Beasts Attack. Chapter 532, Demonic Beasts Attack. Jin Ling. Fang Han looked at Jin Ling and said in a cold voice, I won't get involved in the matters between you and Jian Wushuang from now on. If you want to mess with him, do it by yourself. I won't help you. Jin Ling's expression changed slightly. He nodded and said, I understand. You can leave. Fang Han waved his hand. Jin Ling walked out the tent with a gloomy look on his face. As soon as he got outside the tent, his face immediately distorted. How dare Fang Han give me the cold shoulder? A hint of coldness flashed in his eyes, but he quickly calmed down. What's going on? Fang Han previously promised me that he would deal with Jian Wushuang. Why did he suddenly change his mind? He immediately went to ask the sergeants of the 7th Army, but he was shocked by their answers. Jian Wushuang battled Fang Han. And he even defeated him. Fang Han was wounded by Jian Wushuang. Jin Ling finally understood. After figuring everything out, he felt even more resentment towards Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang participated in the Divine General Assessment with me, but he is already capable of defeating the East Camp's commander. How did he make such a progress so quickly? The 4th story of the Earth Core Palace. Yes, he must have used Emperor Fengxiao's jade slip and gone to the 4th story of the Earth Core Palace to cultivate for 10 days. Otherwise, he could not have improved so quickly. Bastard, that jade slip should have been mine. Jian Wushuang, damn you. Jin Ling roared in his heart. I can't depend on Fang Han anymore, so I will have to think of other ways to deal with Jian Wushuang. It was a sweltering summer day and the heat from the sun was actually baking the ground. At the forefront of East Camp stood the vast plains occupied by the demonic beasts. Boom! Countless demonic beasts were gathering at an alarming rate. In a short time, thousands of demonic beasts had gathered. These demonic beasts had strange appearances, with 2 types of demonic beasts taking up the majority. The first type had a human-shaped body with the head of a leopard. The second type had black scales all over their bodies and crawled on the ground with 8 arms like a spider. These 2 types of demonic beasts came from 2 of the larger groups of monsters. In the center of the demonic beasts, there was a short young man. He looked like a human being, but his eyes were scarlet. Naturally, he was a transformed demonic beast. Boys, today is the wedding of our monster kings, so we're family now. Master Gu Qing has said that today is our carnival day. We are free to slaughter as we like, the short man growled. Hearing the word, slaughter, the demonic beasts immediately roared excitedly. It was in the demonic beast's very nature to enjoy slaughter. Ha, boys, what are you waiting for? Go, let's go to the Huaman territory, the short man exclaimed. Roar! Howl! Moo! The echoes of their loud roars filled the surrounding areas as the thousands of demonic beasts rushed forward. Countless demonic beasts, which were releasing an extremely violent aura, had formed a huge torrent as they rushed toward the humans' territory. In an instant, the whole area began to shake. Before long, the huge torrent of demonic beasts had appeared just outside of the territory guarded by the East Camp. An army of the East Camp was guarding this area, but when the commander saw the countless demonic beasts, he was both stunned and horrified because he had never seen so many demonic beasts gathered in one place before. Activate the formation, quickly. Sound the alarm, sound the alarm. Demonic beast attack, demonic beast attack. The commander immediately took corresponding measures. Ha, boys, let's go do some killing. The short man in the center of the demonic beast torrent laughed loudly as the demonic beasts began to attack the formation ferociously. The terrible demonic beast torrent frightened every sergeant that was guarding this territory. My God, so many demonic beasts. No, no. It's the monster army. The monster army is coming. The alarm, sound the alarm. The monster army of over 10,000 demonic beasts is coming. Retreat, keep retreating, the formation can't hold for long. Messages for help were transmitted to the high officials of the East Camp, immediately causing the whole East Camp to be in shock. Sky Solitude Mountains. Jian Wushuang had just returned from the East Camp. Brother Wushuang, what was the result? Qing Hua and several sergeants came to greet him. Rest assured. Another squad will be coming to take over soon, Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. Really? That's so great. Qing Hua and the other sergeants of the 10th Squad were overjoyed. They did not want to stay in the Sky Solitude Mountains for another second. Qing Hua, I exchanged the achievements for killing those monster spies for some monster cores. Divide them with our brothers. Jian Wushuang took out an interspatial ring. Wushuang, what do you mean? Qing Hua looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. Because of me, they had to stay here in vain for 2 months. They deserve to get the monster cores, Jian Wushuang said and laughed. Well, that's true, Qing Hua nodded heavily. He then began to distribute the monster cores to the other sergeants. Hearing that, the sergeants were surprised and pleased. With this, Jian Wushuang had completely earned their respect. They had known that they were sent to guard this area because of Jian Wushuang. They had complained about it in their hearts, but now the complaints had disappeared. Shortly after the distribution of the monster cores, the squad which was to take over arrived. Brother Wushuang, we come to guard the Sky Solitude Mountains. The leader of the 3rd Squad had witnessed how Jian Wushuang defeated Fang Han easily, so he was very polite to Jian Wushuang. Thank you, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Ha, we'll just stay here for a month. We're much luckier than you. Brother Wushuang, you're so cool. You directly forced Fang Han to change his mind, the squad leader said and laughed. In my opinion, since you're obviously stronger than Fang Han, you should be the command of the 7th Army. Jian Wushuang responded with a faint smile. He naturally sensed the compliment in the squad leader's words. Just then, buzz. They suddenly sensed a strange wave at the same time. Chapter 533, Endless Demonic Beasts. Chapter 533, Endless Demonic Beasts. Emergency. Emergency. The monster army is coming. Everyone from the East Camp is being ordered to go to Skyfire Plains right now. Everyone, go to Skyfire Plains this instant. Both Jian Wushuang and the leader of the 3rd Squad received the emergency alarm at the same time. They were both shocked. The East Camp, which was responsible for guarding the eastern border of the humans' territory, often collided with the demonic beasts. Under normal circumstances, they could easily cope with the demonic beasts' onslaught. But, at this moment, everyone in the East Camp was being summoned to the battlefield. It was not difficult to imagine how urgent the alarm was. Monster Army. These 2 words carried a lot of meaning. I thought that we would get to relax in the Sky Solitude Mountains for a month. It seems like that won't be possible now, said the squad leader as he smiled slightly. He then turned towards the sergeants behind him and shouted, "Brothers, it's time to earn some monster cores." The sergeants had realized there was an emergency, so his words excited them. Especially the sergeants under the command of Jian Wushuang, who had spent the last 2 months, leisurely, in Sky Solitude Mountains. They instantly became excited when they heard that they would finally have a chance to earn some monster cores. Everyone in the 10th squad, Jian Wushuang shouted loudly, "Go, kill the demonic beasts." The 3rd squad, "Follow me," the leader of the 3rd squad also said. The 2 squads, which were supposed to be in the middle of transferring the duty of guarding the Sky Solitude Mountains, headed toward the Sky Fire Plains together. The Sky Fire Plains seemed boundless. They were on the eastern border of the human territory on the monster continent. On the other side was the vast territory occupied by the demonic beasts. The demonic beasts often attacked the humans, and the battlefield was usually the Sky Fire Plains. However, currently, numerous demonic beasts were releasing earth-shaking roars from the Sky Fire Plains as they rushed toward the East Camp's defense structure. When Jian Wushuang and his subordinates arrived at the Sky Fire Plains, they were shocked by the scene in front of them. "Too many, way too many demonic beasts," Jian Wushuang could not help exclaiming. Countless demonic beasts were pouring in from all directions. Fortunately, the East Camp had set up a huge formation in the Sky Fire Plains, which was powerful enough to cover the entire plain. Behind this formation, numerous sergeants were waiting for commands. The 10th and 3rd squads went to gather with other squads of the 7th Army. Fang Han, the commander of the 7th Army, stood in front, but his face was still pale and his aura was weak. Damn it! Why did the monster army have to come now? Fang Han thought with a gloomy face. He had been seriously wounded by Jian Wushuang today. Even now, he had only barely recovered his strength. For him, it was definitely the worst time to fight against the monster army. What happened? Why are so many demonic beasts attacking us so suddenly? It's rare to see an assault by so many demonic beasts in the entire human history. I heard that 2 monster kings are getting married today and they ordered the monsters to attack the humans. The sergeants of East Camp were busy discussing with each other. Countless demonic beasts were fiercely assaulting the huge formation, eager to tear up the formation and kill all human warriors inside it. Nevertheless, the formation was extraordinary and remained solid even though it was being violently attacked by so many demonic beasts. Of course, the most solid part was the core of the formation. The formation was too vast and was being attacked by so many demonic beasts from all directions. Hundreds of demonic beasts have entered the formation. Send the 1st and 3rd Army to block the breach and kill all the demonic beasts that entered. Yes, sir. Report. Command. Commands were quickly transmitted. At the innermost battlefield of the Sky Fire Plains, the top experts of the East Camp had gathered. Even 2 temple masters who rarely appeared were there along with numerous generals were also waiting. These top experts were standing there with solemn expressions on their faces. They were confident that they could resist a direct attack from the demonic beasts because there were 2 temple masters, several generals, and the assistance of the formation. But the key to victory was those breaches that were being caused by the demonic beasts' assault. After all, the Sky Fire Plains were too vast, which made it difficult for the formation to cover the whole plain while still remaining firm. With it being attacked by the demonic beasts from all directions, the formation could not remain completely unbroken in every corner. The emergence of some small breaches was inevitable. As small as the breaches were, the demonic beasts would be able to enter the humans' territory through them, which would bring about a massacre. Therefore, all of the breaches had to be guarded. Report. A breach appeared in zone number 9 of the formation. Send the 7th Army to guard the breach in zone number 9. After receiving the command, the sergeants of the 7th Army, who had been preparing to fight, became excited. Follow me. As the commander, Fang Han, though seriously wounded, led the whole army and headed for Zone Number 9. Zone Number 9 was quite far away from the front battlefield. Even though the sergeants marched at full speed, it still took them a while to arrive. During this period, over 1,000 demonic beasts had swarmed into the formation through the breach. Chapter 534, The Breaches. Chapter 534, The Breaches. Thousands of demonic beasts had entered the formation and were releasing violent auras, both strong and weak. The strong ones were rank 7 or rank 8 monsters, while the weak ones included demonic beasts that were still in the Saint Realm. A stream of demonic beasts were swarming into the formation through the breach. Fortunately, the breach was not large and it took the demonic beasts a while to rush through it. Otherwise, many more demonic beasts would have passed through the breach. Kill all these demonic beasts. Fang Han shouted coldly. Whoosh! 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 There were 10 100-soldier squads in the 7th Army, and even the weakest sergeants were at the 6-Cloud Realm, while the squad leaders were first-grade divine generals. The battle strength of the 7th Army was naturally quite impressive. Humans. The demonic beasts inside the formation sensed the arrival of the 7th Army sergeants. Violent aura rose from them and darkened the whole sky. Kill these humans, a demonic beast roared in human language. Howl. With deafening roars, the demonic beast furiously rushed towards the sergeants. Kill them. Kill. 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 Kill them and take their monster cores. The sergeants looked at the demonic beasts excitedly. It wasn't long before both sides collided, causing a fierce and crazy fight to break out. Swoosh! A faint sword shadow suddenly flashed through the area, so quickly that it was impossible to follow its trail. The sword shadow easily penetrated a rank 7 monster, then flashed toward a rank 6 monster behind it and penetrated it before it could respond. Someone killed a rank 7 and rank 6 monster with one sword move. Naturally, it was Jian Wushuang. Every one of these beasts represents a monster core. Jian Wushuang stared at them coldly. He showed no mercy to the demonic beasts, using his killing moves without hesitation. Swoosh! 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 Bright sword lights constantly lit up the area as Jian Wushuang ran through the battlefield and killed demonic beasts left and right with his sword. The demonic beasts, no matter strong or weak, meant nothing to Jian Wushuang now because he could easily kill a rank 7 monster. Even a rank 8 monster could only manage to parry 1 or 2 of his attacks. In fact, he was slaughtering the demonic beasts like lambs. In the short span of a single moment, he had killed over 20 demonic beasts. Jian Wushuang. Suddenly, he heard a voice coming from his side. Oh! Fang Han. Jian Wushuang turned and realized it was Fang Han, the commander of the 7th Army. What's up? Jian Wushuang asked coldly. Jian Wushuang, I had some conflicts with you before, but that's between you and me. Right now, fighting the demonic beasts is our top priority. I hope you can put what happened before aside and follow my command, Fang Han said seriously. Oh. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and glanced at Fang Han. He could see the sincerity in Fang Han's eyes, so he nodded and said, You're the commander. As long as your command is fair, I'll naturally obey it. That's good. Fang Han nodded and said, I know you have an amazing and powerful realm technique. The 7th Army has the upper hand in fighting the demonic beasts for now, but we aren't strong enough to crush them completely. Your realm technique should have a great effect on the battle. Please use it. Okay, Jian Wushuang didn't refuse. Even if Fang Han had not commanded it, he had already planned to use it. With a thought from Jian Wushuang, a vast rumbling blood river immediately surged forward. It was accompanied by an invisible wave of sword essence, covering the whole battlefield in an instant. Realms, suppress. Jian Wushuang shouted in a low voice as the vast Blood River realm directly suppressed the demonic beasts. Every demonic beast was subjected to a tremendous oppression. The higher-rank demonic beasts could resist to some extent, but they were still greatly restrained. The weaker ones at the Saint Realm or Cloud Realm were forced to kneel down. They could not even raise their heads. This is... The sergeants of the 7th Army were stunned and then looked at Jian Wushuang in astonishment. What are you waiting for? Go kill them! Jian Wushuang shouted. These sergeants finally came to themselves. They rushed forward to kill the demonic beasts while filled with joy and excitement. Ha, brothers, let's go kill them. Kill them. Kill all these demonic beasts. Guard the breach and stop the other demonic beasts from entering. Kill the demonic beasts and claim their monster cores. Shouts of the 7th Army sergeants sounded throughout the whole battlefield. They already had the upper hand in the fight against the demonic beasts. With the assistance of Jian Wushuang's realm, they had an absolute advantage over them now. The demonic beasts became easy targets for the sergeants who were only thinking about how to get more monster cores. The demonic beasts were struggling, but it was in vain. In a moment, the 1,000 demonic beasts which had swarmed inside the formation were killed and the breach had also been completely blocked. Though the breach had not recovered completely, it was so small that it was hard for a demonic beast to break through it. A single 100-soldier squad was sufficient to block the breach. 8th Squad, guard the breach. Everyone else, follow me and to support the other battlefields, Fang Han said loudly. The other 9 squads, led by Fang Han, marched toward the other battlefields. Help, help! A large breach appeared in zone number 14. Thousands of demonic beasts have entered and were being overwhelmed. A message for help suddenly came and the voice was anxious. Zone number 14 belongs to the 6th Army. It's not far away from us. Fang Han narrowed his eyes slightly after receiving the message. Go to zone number 14 immediately. Chapter 535, Rescue. Chapter 535, Rescue. In zone number 14, a large breach, through which 2 demonic beasts were able to enter simultaneously, appeared in the formation and an endless demonic beasts were swarming into the formation. Thousands of demonic beasts had already entered. The sergeants of the 6th Army, who were guarding this breach, were struggling to stop the demonic beasts. However, they had suffered heavy losses and only 1/3 of the army remained to continue fighting. When the sergeants of the 7th Army arrived, they were shocked to see the terrible swarm of demonic beasts in front of them. So many demonic beasts, Fang Han observed with a serious expression before turning to face Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, we're counting on you. Leave it to me, Jian Wushuang replied seriously and then stepped forward. A vast blood river spread out at an alarming rate and covered the entire battlefield in an instant. The powerful realm oppressed the weaker demonic beasts, forcing them to fall directly to the ground. Even the stronger demonic beasts were still greatly restrained. Kill them! Fang Han commanded in a low voice. The sergeants of the 7th Army immediately pounced on the demonic beasts fiercely. Ha, brothers, our reinforcements are coming. Let's kill those damn demonic beasts, the commander of the 6th Army shouted. They immediately cooperated to fight against the demonic beasts. Jian Wushuang controlled the realm and rushed onto the battlefield at the same time. Whoosh! Dazzling sword light lit up and glided past the demonic beasts with ease. The sword light was so bright and fast that even the rank 7 monsters could not parry it. Only a rank 8 monster could block 1 or 2 sword moves. However, few demonic beasts were of rank 8. Ruthless slaughter. Jian Wushuang slaughtered the demonic beasts mercilessly throughout the battlefield, leaving their bodies lying all over. The battlefield became a hell for the demonic beasts. In the face of crisis, Jian Wushuang did not hide his strength. He tried his best to kill as many demonic beasts as possible. After all, the human territory was directly behind them. If these demonic beasts really broke through and entered the human territory, the consequence would be unimaginable. Die! A gleam of killing intent flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes as his sword light glided past a rank 8 monster's throat, making it directly fall to the ground, dead. Amazing! Who's that squad leader? He's so strong. Oh, my god! He killed a rank 8 monster with only 3 sword moves. Seeing how Jian Wushuang slaughtered the demonic beasts, even the human sergeants were stunned. Jian Wushuang was definitely much stronger than the commanders who were top 2nd grade divine generals. The commander of the 6th Army and Fang Han, the commander of the 7th Army, who were both top 2nd grade divine generals, were definitely unable to kill the demonic beasts as easily as Jian Wushuang did. Ha, he's the leader of the 10th squad, Jian Wushuang. He's our squad leader. Look, this is our leader. The realm is also formed by him. Everyone in the 10th squad was proud of him. These sergeants marveled at his strength and felt pleased. With such an extraordinary expert in their camp, who possessed such a powerful realm technique, they had no fear of the demonic beasts. The morale of these human sergeants increased immediately. Only one man became gloomy. Jin Ling. Jin Ling was also a member of the 7th Army that came to the battlefield with Jian Wushuang. He had killed lots of demonic beasts and obtained quite a number of monster cores. However, it seemed to be nothing compared with what Jian Wushuang did. This guy, Jin Ling, stared at Jian Wushuang coldly, his eyes filled with resentment. When the fighting broke out in Zone No. 14, the battle at the front of the Sky Fire Plains was dozens of times more intense. At least 100,000 demonic beasts, led by many rank 8 monsters and even some rank 9 monsters, crazily assaulted the humans. All the human generals had taken action and tried their best to resist. At the rear of the monster army, the small human-like young man stood on the head of a tall demonic beast, constantly giving out orders. Ha, boys, let's go kill them. The more the better. The young man's eyes were scarlet and his face was full of excitement. A demonic beast, with a human body and a leopard head, walked towards the young man. Sir, the leopard-head demonic beast said in human language, we created a large breach in zone number 14 of the human camp, and thousands of our clansmen rushed into the formation. More clansmen would have been able to rush into the breach if only we had not been blocked by their reinforcements. Oh. The young man changed his expression slightly, then immediately asked, how large is the breach? Wide enough for 2 clansmen to enter at the same time, the leopard-head demonic beast replied. Ha, the young man immediately laughed. It's enough for thousands of demonic beasts to swarm into in only half an hour. Mo Wu, the young man spoke. Sir, an ugly demonic beast, whose body was covered in dark purple scales, immediately walked to him. Lead your clansmen to zone number 14 of human camp. Defeat them so that more demonic beasts can enter the human territory. Yes, sir. That demonic beast replied and then immediately rushed away. Many demonic beasts left with him, including over 20 rank 8 monsters and over 100 rank 7 monsters, as well as thousands of demonic beasts that were under rank 7. They immediately rushed towards zone number 14 of human camp. At this time, the battle in zone number 14 had gradually stabilized. Assisted by Jian Wushuang's realm and inspired by his bravery and slaughter, the sergeants of the 6th Army and the 7th Army were able to display their full strength. The human camp gradually took the upper hand. Now I need to find a way to block that large breach, Jian Wushuang thought. Chapter 536, Outrage. Chapter 536, Outrage. The breach which allowed 2 demonic beasts to enter simultaneously was currently their biggest source of trouble. While they were busy fighting with the demonic beasts, quite a lot of demonic beasts had swarmed through the breach. Fortunately, not too many demonic beasts had gathered in the zone number 14. Otherwise, thousands of demonic beasts could have rushed into the formation in the blink of an eye. While Jian Wushuang was in deep thought, suddenly, "Oh, damn!" someone suddenly shouted in a panic, causing the human sergeants to immediately turn and look at the breach. They could see through the formation that a stream of countless demonic beasts had arrived and dozens of demonic beasts had broken into the battlefield through the breach in a second. Those demonic beasts were extremely powerful. Even the weakest ones were rank 7 monsters. There were even more than a dozen rank 8 monsters. They're demonic beast reinforcements. Oh, no. This is going to be big trouble. The sergeants of the human camp became astonished at this scene. Once the demonic beasts broke through into the battlefield, the human sergeants near the breach immediately began to suffer. "No! We'll die!" The miserable shouts from human sergeants in the 2 squads guarding near the breach were heard. Both squads belonged to the 7th Army. One squad was led by Jin Ling and the other one was the 3rd squad, which was supposed to take over guarding Sky Solitude Mountains from Jian Wushuang's squad. The 2 squads had planned to block the breach. Nevertheless, as the powerful demonic beasts began swarming into the formation, it was all they could do to save their own lives now. Dozens of sergeants had been killed by the demonic beasts that had charged through. But, even the remaining sergeants were still in danger. Go to save them!" Fang Han roared. The other sergeants also understood why Fang Han was so anxious. The 2 squads were in the middle of a terrible situation. Once the powerful demonic beasts entered the battlefield, they started to attack the 2 squads. Countless demonic beasts followed them and had completely encircled the 2 squads. Without any reinforcements, the 2 squads would be killed in only a few breaths. "10th squad, follow me." Jian Wushuang waved his hand and the sergeants behind him followed, charging towards the demonic beasts without hesitation. Jian Wushuang had a personal grudge against Jin Ling. However, in the face of this crisis, all human sergeants chose to fight against the demonic beasts together. Jian Wushuang would naturally ignore his personal grudge for the moment. Not to mention, Jin Ling was not the only one in danger. Die! Jian Wushuang held the triple kill sword in his hand, instantly releasing the sword essence and causing it to permeate the area. It was a silent sword move. A silent sword shadow flashed with a dazzling light and a realm which seemed like it could exterminate everything. The sword shadow glided through the area, leaving behind a sword river in its wake. It was the 4th move of the heart-killing sword technique, Sheer Shadow. The violent sword shadow directly hacked towards the 3 rank 8 monsters that were out in front. They also counterattacked. Bang! The 3 demonic beasts were knocked back by the violent clash, while Jian Wushuang also retreated several steps. The sergeants behind Jian Wushuang also pounced on the other demonic beasts. With the support of Jian Wushuang and his squad, the 3rd squad, which had fallen into despair, found an opportunity and struggled out from the encirclement of the demonic beasts. However, Jin Ling and his squad were still in the middle of a crisis. "Brother Wushuang, let's cooperate and save them," the leader of the 3rd squad said. "Okay," Jian Wushuang nodded. The 2 squads, with Jian Wushuang acting as the spearhead, attacked the demonic beasts violently and finally tore out a path to life for Jin Ling and his sergeants. "Rush out!" Jin Ling growled and immediately seized the opportunity to break free from the encirclement. "Jin Ling, cooperate with us, quickly. Let's stop these demonic beasts." Seeing Jin Ling leaving, the leader of the 3rd squad shouted to him. "Cooperate?" Jin Ling's eyes were full of resentment. He glanced at Jian Wushuang behind him and looked at the swarming demonic beasts like wasps in front of him. His face became even more gloomy. "Run! Run! Run!" Fast! Jin Ling growled in a shrill voice and then fled directly to the rear without hesitation. His sergeants obeyed his command unconsciously and also fled frantically to the rear. All of the human sergeants were angry after seeing this. The sergeants of the 3rd and 10th squads were especially outraged. Jin Ling, what are you doing? Fang Han also yelled. Everyone was outraged by Jin Ling's action. When he had been in crisis, Jian Wushuang had immediately led his squad to save him and cooperated with the 3rd squad to cut a path from the demonic beast group so that he could escape. To rescue him, the 2 squads chose to fight with the numerous demonic beasts. Jin Ling should have cooperated with the other 2 squads so that the 3 squads could have a better opportunity to survive. On the contrary, Jin Ling chose to flee while ignoring the sergeants who had rescued him. How could he ignore those who had fallen into a dangerous situation in order to save his life? Selfish. Shameless. Ungrateful. Bastard, the leader of the 3rd squad shouted angrily. This bastard. Son of B-. The sergeants of the 10th and 3rd squad also could not help swearing. However, Jin Ling didn't pay any attention to them. He was scared to death because he had almost died in the encirclement of the demonic beasts. At this moment, he only wanted to run for his life. He did not give a damn about anything else. What's more, Jian Wushuang was also in danger now. Jian Wushuang, aren't you impressive? I can't wait to see whether you'll live or die. Jin Ling even took a kind of dark pleasure in it. Chapter 537, Outburst. Chapter 537, Outburst. Obviously, no one had expected Jin Ling's action. Even the sergeants in his squad, who had unconsciously obeyed his command to flee, realized what they were doing a moment later. Leader, how can we do this? They rescued us. How can we run away and abandon them? Leader. The sergeants stopped one by one. Some even turned back and ran towards Jian Wushuang and other sergeants, ready to fight against the demonic beasts with them. Run, run. Jin Ling ignored them and still fled desperately. This bastard. Qing Hua swore. The sergeants of the 10th and 3rd squad were also surprised and angry. Brother Wushuang, what should we do now? The leader of the 3rd squad looked toward Jian Wushuang. Try to survive, Jian Wushuang answered calmly. Howl! 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 Numerous demonic beasts, led by Mo Wu, who was covered with dark purple scales, roared and rushed toward Jian Wushuang and the other sergeants. Most of the demonic beasts had just swarmed into the battlefield. In an instant, thousands of demonic beasts had managed to pass through the breach. Most importantly, these demonic beasts were extremely strong, including dozens of rank 8 monsters and hundreds of rank 7 monsters. This terrifying swarm of demonic beasts rushed toward Jian Wushuang and the other sergeants. Go rescue them, Fang Han called out in a shrill voice. He was the first one to rush toward Jian Wushuang. The whole 7th Army, as well as many sergeants of the 6th Army, also ran towards Jian Wushuang. Everyone wanted to rescue them, except Jin Ling, who was eager to run away. Jian Wushuang, die in peace, Jin Ling whispered with a gloomy look. He turned back to look at the battlefield as he fled. A swarm of demonic beasts had already flooded the area where Jian Wushuang and the others were. Right then. Buzz! A terrible sword essence, which was strong enough to shake the entire area, suddenly burst forth. In the center of the demonic beast's encirclement, a golden figure began to grow at an alarming rate. A golden spectral image rose from behind Jian Wushuang and instantly grew to a full height of 60 meters. Sword Soul Phantom. The strongest Sword Soul Phantom. It was the first time that Jian Wushuang had used the Sword Soul Phantom since he arrived on the monster continent. The 60-meter-tall Sword Soul Phantom, which released a supreme sword essence, stood in the sky like a noble sword master. What's that? The sergeants, as well as the demonic beasts, raised their heads and watched the golden sword soul phantom in confusion. Jian Wushuang, who stood under the sword soul phantom, released his sword soul power. Get the hell out of my way. With a wave of his hand, Jian Wushuang swung the triple kill sword while releasing a vast and mighty power. The golden sword soul phantom also swung the long sword at the same time. A huge bright sword light suddenly appeared and swept the surrounding area. Whoosh! The overwhelming sword light swept away the demonic beasts which were fiercely killing in the area around Jian Wushuang. Although these demonic beasts used powerful moves and other means to resist, the sword power was too earth-shaking. Chi! 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 The sword edge glided past the demonic beasts which were going to attack Jian Wushuang and the others, causing the demonic beasts to suddenly halt. They stopped in mid-air, unexpectedly. Space and time froze. All of a sudden, dozens of demonic beasts fell down without any sign of a struggle. The whole battlefield fell into a brief silence. Everyone on the battlefield, including the demonic beasts, who looked at this scene were stunned. Jian Wushuang killed dozens of demonic beasts with a single sword move. Included in this count was a rank 8 monster and 6 rank 7 monsters. His battle strength. What? How's this possible? The human sergeants in the surrounding area were flabbergasted by the sight of this. The demonic beasts which had been attacking frantically were also astonished. So powerful? Mo Wu also looked at Jian Wushuang and said, though he's not a divine emperor, he's definitely a heaven-defying second-grade divine general. In terms of battle strength, he isn't weaker than an ordinary human divine emperor. Damn it. How did such a strong expert appear among these humans? Jian Wushuang was currently the center of attention as he fought with a face full of killing intent and an extremely cold look in his eyes. Kill, he said coldly. As his killing intent soared, the supreme sword essence of the golden sword soul phantom also skyrocketed. At this moment, he stepped forward and the long sword swept through the surrounding area once again. The 6 demonic beasts in front of him were his targets. The 6 rank 7 monsters tried to resist. Nevertheless, when the sword arrived, their auras were instantly extinguished while their eyes were still wide open. He instantly killed 6 rank 7 monsters with a single sword strike again. The demonic beasts which had been violently attacking moments ago could not help trembling because of his terrifying strength and overwhelming killing intent. They quickly halted while being completely astonished by Jian Wushuang. Mo Wu, the leader of the demonic beasts, glanced at Jian Wushuang in horror. He then snorted and said, "He's the only strong one. Leave him alone. Go kill the other humans." Howl! The demonic beasts roared in response, then immediately turned to attack the other sergeants. How can this be? Jin Ling had been watching from the rear as the situation unfolded. He thought that Jian Wushuang would definitely die, so he had never expected to see Jian Wushuang suddenly burst forth with an overwhelming power and force the demonic beasts to retreat. Bastard, how can you still be alive? Jin Ling's eyes glazed over with resentment. At this moment, howl! A demonic beast appeared in the front of Jin Ling. It was a rank 8 monster which had entered the formation much earlier, and it was preventing Jin Ling from escaping. What's worse, several demonic beasts also ran toward him after avoiding Jian Wushuang. Soon, several demonic beasts appeared behind Jin Ling and began to directly attack him. Oh no! Jin Ling's expression darkened. The converging attack of the strong demonic beasts forced him into a critical situation once again. Chapter 538, Jian Wushuang, you did not save my life. Chapter 538, Jian Wushuang, you did not save my life. On the battlefield, the fierce battle continued. Jian Wushuang held his heart-killing sword tightly and activated the Blood River realm while the 60-meter-tall golden sword soul phantom emanated a mighty aura. He slaughtered the demonic beasts with his sword alone. Wherever he went, the demonic beasts tried to dodge him, daring not to fight against him. Brother Wushuang, good job. Leader, I love you. Qing Hua and the leader of the third squad, as well as the other sergeants, were ecstatic and excited. They had prepared to fight to the death after being abandoned by Jin Ling. Nobody had expected Jian Wushuang to suddenly burst out at this critical moment and alleviate their burden on his own. They were still being attacked by the demonic beasts, but it was not as intense as before. Therefore, it became easier for them to counterattack. Be careful, Jian Wushuang reminded them. He turned to look at the breach that was closest to them. Too many demonic beasts had made it into the formation. Most importantly, an endless swarm of demonic beasts was still surging into the formation through the breach. If the breach was not blocked, the number of demonic beasts would only continue to increase. We have to block the breach. Jian Wushuang focused his eyes on the breach. Take care of yourselves. I'm going to block the breach, Jian Wushuang said to Qing Hua before rushing to the breach. He had just taken a few steps when he suddenly heard urgent and crazy shouts from nearby. Get out of my way. Damn it. Go die. Hearing that, Jian Wushuang turned to look. He narrowed his eyes at the scene that was taking place in front of him. Jin Ling, who had fled earlier, became the target of some demonic beasts. He was currently encircled by 4 demonic beasts, 2 that were rank 8 monsters with the other 2 being rank 7 monsters. He was in a terrible situation. Jin Ling also saw Jian Wushuang at this time. His eyes immediately lit up. Jian Wushuang, help me quickly. He shouted with anxiety. Though he was also a second-grade divine general, he had not experienced many dangerous situations because he was the son of Emperor Golden Snake. He had been extremely scared when he was encircled by the demonic beasts before. Even now, he was only surrounded by 4 demonic beasts, but he still had no confidence in defeating them and could not display his full strength. In fact, as long as he was careful, it would not be easy for the demonic beasts to kill him. Come save me. Jin Ling roared when he saw that Jian Wushuang had no intention to help him. Save you? Jian Wushuang cast a cold glance at Jin Ling and turned to head for the breach. Bastard! You're leaving me to die. Jin Ling's angry shouts were heard all over the battlefield. The other sergeants heard Jin Ling's angry roars, but they just cast a cold glance towards him. Even the sergeants under the command of Jin Ling remained indifferent. They clearly saw what happened earlier. Jian Wushuang had selflessly saved Jin Ling's life, but what did he get in return? Did he really expect Jian Wushuang to save him again? Did he think Jian Wushuang was a fool? The farmer got bitten by the snake after saving it. I won't allow it to happen again, Jian Wushuang murmured. Jin Ling was no different from a poisonous snake. Jian Wushuang had no intent to save Jin Ling. The other sergeants that were nearby also gave him the cold shoulder. As the commander and someone who knew Jin Ling's identity, Fang Han hesitated for a moment. However, he was facing 2 rank 8 monsters at the moment and he had not completely recovered from his wounds. Even if he wanted to save him, he could not. Bastard! No! Jin Ling's shrill voice continuously echoed throughout the battlefield. He was struggling desperately while surrounded by 4 demonic beasts, but when 2 more rank 7 monsters joined to attack him, he was completely overcome with despair. That despair gradually turned into madness and resentment. Jian Wushuang! It's all because of you. You left me to die. Just wait. If I die, you won't be able to live either. He roared hysterically as a demonic beast opened its mouth and directly bit off his left arm. Jin Ling knew he was doomed, so he took out a messaging slip with his right hand and broke it. His voice, filled with endless resentment, was passed on through the slip. Father, I'm going to die. It's Jian Wushuang's fault. He left me to die. Get revenge for me. Kill him for me. The battlefield reverberated with his crazy voice that was full of endless resentment. The sergeants were astonished. They saw a rank 8 monster suddenly slash its sharp claw on Jin Ling's head, making it burst like a watermelon. Jin Ling died in an instant. Though he was dead, his words had been passed through the messaging slip. Jian Wushuang, who was rushing toward the breach, heard his words clearly. He narrowed his eyes slightly, but he did not pay much attention to it. Boom! Jian Wushuang arrived at the breach like a peerlessly sharp sword. With a wave of his sword, he instantly killed 2 demonic beasts that had just passed through the breach. For the remaining time, he stood at the breach. The demonic beasts outside were eager to rush into the battlefield, but only 2 demonic beasts could pass through the breach simultaneously, and he could kill 2 demonic beasts without effort. Therefore, Jian Wushuang completely blocked the breach by himself. None of the demonic beasts were able to break through his defense and enter the battlefield. Whoosh! 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 Not far away, several flowing lights swiftly arrived. They were human sergeants coming to support them. Reinforcements are coming. The sergeants of the 7th Army and 6th Army were overjoyed. They immediately joined forces with the reinforcements and killed the demonic beasts that still remained on the battlefield. The situation immediately became stable. In Zone Number 14, the human camp had gained the absolute advantage. Chapter 539, The Tragic Result. Chapter 539, The Tragic Result. Every inch of the Skyfire Plains had become a battlefield. Countless demonic beasts were fighting frantically with sergeants of the East Camp, resulting in a battle that was both miserable and tragic. After over half a day, the short man, who was surrounded by many demonic beasts outside the front battlefield, finally ordered them to retreat. The demonic beasts immediately responded. They stopped attacking and turned around, retreating towards the demonic beast territory. This tragic war, which was considered a rare event, even in the entirety of the humans' recorded history, finally came to an end. The sergeants of the East Camp and the top experts all gathered at the front battlefield. They finally retreated. East Camp has suffered a serious loss. But we killed more demonic beasts. The generals were discussing everything that had happened. A fierce war had also broken out on the front battlefield, and these generals, as well as the 2 temple masters, had participated in the fight and killed a large number of demonic beasts. However, traces of exhaustion could be seen on their foreheads. Among the generals, there was a skinny middle-aged man whose eyes were as sharp as a snake. He wore a golden robe and had a rather forbidding and gloomy demeanor. He was Emperor Golden Snake, one of the 108 divine emperors of the Monster Exterminating League. These demonic beasts were indeed crazy. Emperor Golden Snake looked around. Countless demonic beasts had died on the battlefield and their blood had soaked into the ground. Oh, Linger's message. Emperor Golden Snake suddenly recalled something and took out a messaging slip. He had received Jin Ling's message earlier. However, he had been fighting, so he did not check the message until now. He immediately heard a voice full of hysteria and endless resentment. Father, I'm going to die. It's Jian Wushuang's fault. He left me to die. Get revenge for me. Kill him for me. The voice echoed in Emperor Golden Snake's ears for a long time after the messaging slip burst. Emperor Golden Snake stood there for a while, his eyes empty and his head locked in a daze. Dead? Linger is dead? He murmured, but his face gradually became distorted and horrifying. Jian Wushuang. He gnashed his teeth in anger while saying those words. An overwhelming killing intent rose from him as he rushed toward zone number 14, where Jian Wushuang was. Some generals around noticed this scene. What happened to Golden Snake? What a strong killing intent. But nothing happened to him just now. Did someone important to him die? The generals were confused. Let me go check it out. This war has only just ended and East Camp suffered a heavy loss. I hope there are no more accidents, a black-clothed elder said. He then followed Emperor Golden Snake and left. He was the general who had shown up when Jian Wushuang fought Fang Han in the 7th Army campsite. At that time, Jian Wushuang, Fang Han, and the other sergeants had realized that he favored Jian Wushuang to some extent. Zone number 14. The demonic beasts outside the formation were retreating. Most of the ones in the formation had been killed by the sergeants. Are they finally retreating? Seeing the demonic beasts leaving, Jian Wushuang sighed in relief. Under his feet, the demonic beasts' bodies had piled up, forming a mountain. These demonic beasts had tried to enter the battlefield through the breach, but they were killed by Jian Wushuang as soon as they stepped through the breach. He had killed hundreds of demonic beasts at the breach during this period of time. The sergeants began to clean up the battlefield. This battlefield was like a huge treasure. After all, during the fierce battle, the sergeants did not always have time to grab the monster cores before the demonic beasts' bodies fell to the ground. Also, some of the sergeants died, and their interspatial rings also fell to the ground with them. The ground of this battlefield was priceless in a sense. Brother Wushuang, Qinghua walked over to Jian Wushuang. His face was a little pale, so it was obvious that he had also been heavily wounded during the battle. How was your harvest? Jian Wushuang asked. Not bad. After we clean up the battlefield, the commander will distribute the monster cores according to everyone's position and contribution. We'll get more monster cores at that time, so it's quite a big harvest, Qinghua said. Qinghua should have felt happy for the harvest. However, he, as well as the other sergeants, could not feel happy. Too miserable, Qinghua shook his head and replied. Shueho, Shi Shan, Gong Sun Yang. They all died, Qinghua mentioned several names. They were sergeants in Jian Wushuang's squad, including some team leaders. They had been killed by demonic beasts during the battle. In the 10th squad, only about 40 of the 100 sergeants survived, but even they were seriously wounded. That was not the worst part though. Some of the squads in the 7th Army had been completely wiped out. Only about 10% of the sergeants in the 6th Army had survived. It was utterly miserable. This is the war between humans and demonic beasts. No wonder that humans on Monster Continent hate the demonic beasts so much, Jian Wushuang thought. The war was started by the demonic beasts. The humans could only hide in the formation and resist them. Every time, a large number of sergeants would die in battle. However, they had no ability to counterattack. After all, they were too weak when compared to the demonic beasts. While Jian Wushuang was in deep thought, suddenly, boom! In the distance, a man with a mighty killing intent appeared, and he was rushing here at an alarming rate. The overwhelming killing intent swept through the area before he even arrived. This is... All of the sergeants in zone number 14 raised their heads to look at that man. Fang Han's eyes narrowed because he had recognized that man. Emperor Golden Snake. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.